guest, Michael Lee Hill, back again to share more information with us about the Anunnaki, uh, the hybrid, I don't know if you want to call it program, those that have been hybridized through the Anunnaki, and I think which is a great deal of us, if not all of us, but also to discuss his crop circles and the binary codes that came through the crop circles and communicating with Michael, the Anunnaki. This is one way that they communicate with him and give him guidance and information to share with humanity. So he will reveal some of that information with us tonight. Welcome, Michael Lee Hill. I'm always excited to have you. I love hearing about your experiences, and thank you for sharing. The other night, Michael sent me photos of ships that he took. Was that a recent, Michael? Was that recent
They
or?
were both a few years ago. The first one was actually in the Dan Aykroyd Unplugged on UFOs documentary. And that's what
Okay.
got me and David Sarita friends and together, because we ended up partnering on a film called From Here to Andromeda. And all of it was over Lake Erie when I lived right next to the lake. And I experienced,
I
those
mean,
orbs of
that's
light.
fascinating. Not many people get the opportunity, like yourself, to record this type of phenomena and be able to share it with us. I mean,
Yeah. Well,
there are
thank you. And
others, but
I knew it was important, because I didn't like filming them. Imagine you're seeing the most beautiful, multi-dimensional colored, house-sized orb of light out there, and you're looking at it through a little black and white viewfinder on your Sony Handycam. It just sucked. It's like I wanted that color to hit my retina, I wanted
yeah,
to see it. But I knew it was important that they're letting me film them. And I told them, I got some pretty crazy stuff here. And they let me know they knew I was filming them, and that it was okay to release it. Because I said, listen, if you're not cool with me releasing this, you need to let me know. And they let me know it was fine. So now
awesome.
my YouTube has over 5 million views. But tell you what, that can appear as one orb of light, but then it can separate and become two orbs of light. Those two can become three. Those three are the triangular objects that I just shared. And those triangular ships are appearing worldwide right now. It's people don't know, though. It's all the same phenomena. It starts off before it becomes physical as an orb of light. But then, like, as I think Bigelow Aerospace, the people that were funded $22 million by the Pentagon, they contacted me and said, we know that you're in contact with the real thing because we've been studying it over the Skinwalker Ranch. Robert Bigelow owned the Skinwalker Ranch for a while. So I learned a lot from them. And actually, it was just backed up what I had learned from an Arcturian ambassador, which we talked about that before. And I'm kind of confused why the Arcturian ambassador was in charge, he said, of creating the Council of 150. And these 150 were what he called ancients and hybrids. I'm like, what is an Arcturian doing in charge of an Anunnaki council? Still don't really know the answer to that. But what I found out from him first and then from Bigelow Aerospace is those orbs of light in some process that we don't understand. Over the Skinwalker Ranch, they would see this orb of light come down and turn into a giant wolf or a giant deer, take on biological
Wow.
life forms. I've seen the same thing down to the lake. I've seen an orb come down right over the lake, and it was within swimming distance out of the. It disappeared, and right in front of me, a deer walked, and it was a giant. It was like a moose-sized deer, and it walked so close to me, I could have reached out and petted it as it walked by. It was kind of frightening. Like, is this thing gonna kick my ass? But
Would
it wasn't. It was almost like I wasn't even there to hit. Like I was almost like a film playing. But the cool part of this is I learned in the UK Ministry of Defense, they had said that what they had found out is these orbs of light are the real deal, but three of them can come together in some unknown process to mankind and create one triangular ship that takes up, thousands of feet on each side, that many
right.
of them can use then. So that's something, many people don't even realize is this intelligence we're talking about is outside of our space-time, and it can become anything technological or biological within our own personal realities. So that's a little bit more to wrap your head around.
Mhm.
But I'm glad you enjoyed the photos.
The most I've ever seen that I can recall is I do know that I've been taken for sure. I've been abducted, but I also found myself in DUMS through my lab. So I have some recall of that. Um, I am a Pleiadian. I think we've shared that,
Mhm.
or I have shared that, and so there was a great interest in me, but I don't recall ever seeing or well, I saw orbs in my apartment in the condo where I was living, but I'd never seen anything outside that I can recall. Now, I do remember here in Jacksonville, not long after I'd moved here, I saw a big triangular something. But I'm thinking it was military. I don't think it was like off world or anything, but
Mm.
I could be completely wrong because I
It's hard
wouldn't
to
know what I'm
tell these
looking
days.
Yeah.
What's easy with the Lake Erie UFOs is I started working with the East Lake Historical Society, and I started getting newspaper articles from the 1800s that they called them wizard lights. They'd see these balls of light out over the lake, and people would think that there's a burning ship out there or something and get rescue crews. And the Native American Indians were like, "Don't bother. It's not physical." But they'd go out there, no ships, no burning, nothing. And this is interesting because I'll tell you what the Arcturian ambassador said is they're actually Merkabas. To see an actual Merkaba that's in physicality appears at one of these orbs of light. And he said, for a 6-foot individual, your Meissner field or your aura field or whatever you want to call it, your energy field of your body, it ends 3 feet above your head and 3 feet below your feet. So if you're 6 foot, you're going to have a 12-foot sphere of light around you. And so if you see a ball of light that's about 12 foot, more than likely there's one individual in it that's creating a Merkaba field. He said 3 of those individuals can come together and create a bigger geometry field. And he showed it as one meditator, we'll call them cosmic meditators in each corner of the triangle. And he said they have a ball, a material. He said, this is him talking to me. He said, everything is light that's been slowed down to physical reality. And he said, imagine the physical material that's the closest to returning to light. He said, it's screaming to become light again, was his actual words. I'll never forget it. And he said, these 3 people are creating Merkaba energy fields, and this material that's in between them, they're flowing energy out through their crown chakra into the object, back out, through the toes. That's where our energy enters our physical body. And in infinity loops between the 3, since this object is very close to becoming physical light again, their energy that they add to it throws it over the threshold and makes it become a little miniature sun in between those 3. And he said, now there's not too many humans that could sit in one of those chairs right now. He said, because if any one of those 3, if you start going from here to Andromeda and it takes you, I don't know, half a second to get there, but if any one of those members go, oh man, we're going too fast, it's not going to end well for anyone. But then he said, so 3 people create a 50-foot sphere. 3 of those 3-person spheres can come together and create a triangular craft. So he said it's always 3s, 6s, and 9s. Because you'd think about it, to do a triangle, you would need 9, 3 in each corner. 3, 6, 9, right? That's interesting. But he said then 9 using spiritual light technology can create a triangular craft, and then thousands of them can use. And they'll create the craft. All of them will get in, come down, see what us crazy humans are up to. And then they return and they get out. And
I'm listening. I'm sorry, Mike.
no, it's all good. That's it. That was
Yeah.
the end of the story. But so when you see those balls of light and like the photographs when it's in a triangular shape, It's actually the exact same phenomenon. It's just, to me, when they're in the physical sun, chariots of fire in the Bible, right? That's what they look like before they've become technological or biological. That's their energy field you're seeing.
So when you say chariots of fire, so you would agree that that is what they're referring to in the Bible is actually
Oh yeah,
spacecraft or
it's the burning
UFO?
bush. People are
Okay,
going to describe those things in their verbiage of their time.
right.
If it's a burning bush, that's to them that's what they've seen. There's a big fucking ball, like, excuse my language, but down at the lake, I had filled up my camera with a lot of footage, and this one night, one of these orbs showed up 10 feet above my head, and it was huge, and there was no one else down there but myself. My first instinct was I thought I was going to die because I could see flame licking off of it. It's not light, it's plasma, it's fire. And I thought, oh, this is how I die. And all of a sudden it hit me. There was no sound and there was no heat. It was light without heat. And it stayed for, I don't know, about 15 seconds, which seemed like an eternity.
Mm-hmm.
But if I was back in Bible days, I'd say, hey, man, I seen a burning bush,
Well, I trust you were back in Bible days, but anyways,
Yeah, we've all been here for a very long
we're
time.
all here.
And
Everybody's here. I don't know if you got a chance.
we
Um,
are we've been waiting for.
yeah, well, that's correct. And Michael, so I know you want to speak to your the crop circles, and I definitely want to do that, and I think that's very important, especially for people that aren't um
Yeah,
really
we've almost got it wrapped up,
yeah.
So sometime during this, let's hit that. But other than that, I really like talking. I love the questions and answers, and you ask great questions. And I'm much more comfortable. Like we're talking about before the interview, I'm getting a little tired of me. When you do,
Well, let's
there's
not get
only
tired. I mean, you may be, but yes, if you have somebody that you can engage with, where you keep the energy flowing, and it's enlightening for the audience and the listeners, and it makes it more exciting, and it gets your fire going. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
much
I get
prefer
it.
conversation over me talking to people. You know what I mean? Even
Well,
when I
I
do
mean,
seminars and stuff,
yeah.
I would much rather just have a talk with people than me getting up there talking to people. It's two totally different things, and there's no energy flow or anything. It's like I'd rather jam with musicians than me jam. Well, I like performing anyhow, so that's a bad
Yeah.
example. But yeah,
You're an excellent performer, and I've listened to your music several times, and I've shared it on past shows that we did together, Michael.
thank you.
So I want to ask you. I mean, I really do want to open up the dialogue a little bit more about. Of course, I have a personal interest in it because I feel that you and I have a connection from past lives, and but bigger than that, I think there's so many people. People. I mean, I get people contact me not all the time, but a fair amount, enough to, wanting to know what I know, and if I can share, information with them that would help guide them to understand a little bit more about who the Anunnaki are, who
Mhm.
the originals were. Some people, this isn't a competition. I'm not interested in competing with anybody, right? And I'm talking about, some suggest that there are, and I believe it, that there are, uh, you have the oversoul, and then you have the however many people that oversoul is
I call them
connected.
fractals.
Yeah, fractals. There you go.
Mhm.
So, and I know I hold Magdalene DNA, and I'm over that too. Like I only
Well,
care to the extent that whatever was supposed to be learned in a past life that needs to be corrected, healed, and corrected and healed in this life, that's important to me.
Yeah, well,
Um,
it's right in front of you now. We've all had so many names. The
mm,
names become useless. What I was told is what you truly are is nameless, but not voiceless.
right.
We've all had so many names, and people are like, "Well, how come you're always, Poseidon or Inky or whatever, Maitreya?" Um, you know what? I've probably lived a lot of lives as people you wouldn't even know, and I probably did horrible shit. We've all walked the dark line and we've all walked the light line. Of course, if I'm going to look back into past lives and have past life recall, I'm probably going to remember the ones that were okay and I did all right.
Maybe, yes.
I had Galzu from the Anunnaki. He's a dear friend of mine now, and he said, "I stand behind you now, but realize for a very long time I haven't stood behind you because you became an idiot."
Who's Kalzu? Who is that?
Galzu
So,
is
yeah,
a,
or Galzu.
in the Pleiadian story. People think that the Anunnaki looked at themselves as gods. It's like, no, they knew that there was higher levels of intelligence in the galactic totem pole, and they had an ambassador from all that is what they called him. I heard it's Pleiadian, that
Mhm.
he's the one that in a dream state showed Inky how to build the ark and save humanity. It was Galzu. Galzu is the one who in, instrumented the whole thing to save humanity, create the hybrid race line, and do the intelligence acceleration software that would make us experience our own mental energy in an accelerated fashion, both light and dark. Well, Galzu is behind the scenes. If you put out dark, he goes and creates the event strings that will give you the chance to choose better. But how that looks in the person's own personal reality is you experience your own garbage, baggage.
Yeah,
Could be just, it
I
could be
appreciate
love
that
filled.
post that you made. And it's fairly long, but I will ask Katie to add it to the event so people have an opportunity to
Well,
read that.
yeah,
Because
that
I think
most
it's
recent
important.
one, I thought, you know what? Hmm. I've been more vocal about when I met the Anunnaki, they said, we're going to remove your memory blocks. And they used an instrument on my third eye. I could feel it stimulate it. I actually felt good. Probably released a little DMT. You know what I mean? That's what your pineal gland does.
Sure.
And they said, we're going to remove your memory blocks now that we know you're one of us. And first of all, I'm like, memory blocks? What? I didn't know I had memory blocks. Does any of us know we have memory blocks? And then my next thought was, well, if I've got suppressed memories, don't I feel like I'm going insane? How are those going to surface into? Because I'm quite the scientist, and I need scientific proof of anything. It needs to be confirmed to me from many different angles. And I'm thinking, how the hell is suppressed memories? And sure enough, it it's easy because it's all real. It was just hidden. Like, I didn't know at that time when I met them, I hadn't met my biological mother yet or my two sisters. And I didn't know I was almost pure blood Seneca of the Iroquois. No clue. Now think about how important that is in everything, even for past
Mhm.
lives for me. But
Sure.
at that time, I didn't know. And,
Have you
that
so can I ask you this? Have you had, I mean, did you give your blood and do DNA testing and all that? No. I mean, you did that with the
for my
with
mother,
NASA, but
for
like
me,
when your
my
sisters came to you and told you about your bloodline and so forth and
Well, they
your,
didn't. They didn't know. They just knew that their mother was Seneca, and
okay.
uh, I didn't have to search her down. By the way, this gets into a Jerry Springer story, but my
I've heard it, but
mother,
you're welcome to share it if you want. I mean, you've told
well,
me.
my birth mother is actually, man, it's confusing. My aunt on my father's side was married to a guy, and his sister's child was my biological mother.
Mm.
So my cousins on that side are actually my second cousins, even though I'm adopted. That's how it would. Uh-oh.
I don't know what
Something.
that was. Something
Mm.
with Katie. I think it, I mean, we should be okay. Go ahead.
So,
Please continue.
uh, so I knew through my cousins on that side when I needed to contact her, um, I could because they knew how to get in contact with her. But the timing was never right. My mother that raised me, to me, they're mom and dad, you know what I mean? And she was going through cancer and stuff. And I was not going to even chance doing anything that would put more on her plate on a stress level or anything. So it wasn't time for me to. But when I was on the History Channel and the Harvard professor found out I don't have normal human blood, And by the way, yeah, everyone has Anunnaki genes, but that's not the Nephilim. The Nephilim is very specialized because some of them came to help, and they're not like indigenous human, if you will. But that was why the Anunnaki was created. And I can tell you, you know, people go, is that typo? RH negative. And it's not, because the Harvard professor, who he knows what typo, that's not it. It's high creatine kinase levels. And when I met the Anunnaki, they said this blood anomaly that was revealed on the History Channel is an indicator that you're of our hybrid bloodline known as the Nephilim. And again, I don't want to make hierarchy, because they also told me, don't let any of this stuff create hierarchy in your mind, because the acorn is no less significant than the giant oak it will one day become in
Absolutely,
Creator's
I
eyes.
agree. Right.
Everything, it's all, and a ninth grader don't look back at a seventh grader going, nah, 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 nah. The seventh grader will become the ninth grader, and the ninth grader will be on the 12th grade, and it just keeps flowing.
So,
So,
Michael, let me ask you something. So, I don't mean to keep interrupting you, but
no,
I'm
it's all
trying to
good.
keep because you're definitely getting my mind going, and
Mhm.
I want to ask questions. So, do you mind sharing what is your blood type? If
It's
you're
O, type O, but that's
O
not it.
positive, O negative.
O negative,
Okay.
RH negative, but
Right.
that's not it. Like everyone, like Harvard professors know about type O. What was the curiosity in my blood, and what the Anunnaki told me is the indicator is creatine kinase. Creatine kinase brings extra oxygen, which equates to electricity or chi or prana, into the bloodstream to facilitate healing. So the more CK you got in your body, the more force. And actually, the Star Wars films, they call it midichlorians. And
Interesting.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
what are these
I've
dudes
never been into Star Wars too much. I will tell you this. I remember being a kid loving I Dream a Genie. I loved the Jetsons was my favorite cartoon. I was into, you know,
Right. Did I ever
but
tell you when I
like,
met the
yeah,
Anunnaki? That's where I met them. They called it the I Dream a Genie bottle.
okay.
It was a
Well,
gazebo,
so
and it
what
was
do you
all
know about O positive? O
nothing,
positive. Yeah.
nothing. I don't
Okay.
really know anything about.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm O positive.
yeah, I don't know.
So yeah.
To
Well,
me,
I
what
mean,
I
I've listened
understand.
to, I sent you a clip from Max Spears and James Casbolt. I don't know if you got a chance to watch that, but I do appreciate, I mean, I've learned a great deal from both of them, and I've had
Mhm.
to, extract what makes sense to me. Doesn't mean that the rest of their information, I'm not here to decide whether it's accurate or not accurate. I can only go by intuitively what I feel and the information that was shared. And I have to say, especially Max Spears. I mean, I learned a great deal from that man. I do know, and I thought it was interesting because he brought up about the Florida Deleaf. Is that the way you say it? Florida.
I always mispronounce it. Sarah
Yeah,
always yells at me.
about it being connected to Sirius, the Sirius star system,
I just
somehow. And
posted. Do you see? I showed the Sumerian depictions of the Fleur de Lis on their statues on their heads. It didn't come
no,
from
but I will
France, so
look.
yeah, I just posted it today. There's some
So
synchronicity.
yeah.
And one of the
Uh,
grandmothers seen that, and they said, the seal of Camelot.
okay. So,
Mhm.
Michael, can you share more about this the Pleiadian, the Pleiadian mother of Enki and Anu? You said Anu, that the Anunnaki were not Draco. They have reptilian, a mixture of reptilian and Pleiadian. No, what?
Well, we all do. Everyone has a reptilian part of your brain, but we've evolved. And
Okay, I
you know,
realize that. I'm talking about this. I'm not trying to be rude at
mhm,
all. I'm talking about what started the Homo sapien the what we're in now, this
mhm,
creation. Because from my understanding, this is like the fifth or sixth time. Is that right? That we've
mhm,
Yeah. So I'm talking about when whoever the Pleiadian queen that got with Anu,
mhm.
or that made it with him. How would that be if I mean?
The only reason I can think of, because that is a great question, because there's not a lot of information on it out there. Because what was a Pleiadian queen doing with an Anunnaki king? And the reason that they've given me is, well, of course she would be interested in what was going to happen to her children.
But we
This
didn't
was
know about children yet. They hadn't had them.
they had the Pleiadian soul carrier was already on this planet before it was genetically mutated to become Homo sapien. It was
So it
here
was
and
Lyra.
evolving.
It was Lyra first, then Pleiades, then
No, it was Homo sapien human. There was, before the Anunnaki got here, there was a primate evolving on this planet that was a Pleiadian soul carrier. And that is what the Anunnaki tweaked and mutated to advance its evolution artificially to make Homo sapien. But even if they wouldn't have done that, yeah, they sped up the process. There ain't no doubt. They said actually it's worked better than they could have ever thought. But if they wouldn't have tinkered, that upcoming humanoid life form would have evolved to become a wingmaker in the future. It was just that, we all go through these cycles of evolution. That's all it was. We were at an early phase there, and ain't nothing derogatory about it. But so the Pleiadian queen, if she knew there was going to be an experiment to help and try to save her children from what was coming, the end of the age of Pisces, which was a dark age, and all of our, what I think actually it's like the Pink Floyd song. Picture, instead of mother, it says Marduk will make sure all your nightmares come true. Marduk will make sure nothing dirties you through. See, that's the true lesson, is his spiritual role is to make sure nothing will dirty you through by making you experience your own nightmares. So hopefully you'll
well,
go,
I think
no,
a
I'm
lot
going
of,
to
I mean, I
choose.
appreciate that statement, but I would imagine that there's a lot of people that may uh disagree with that
That's
because of,
fine.
yeah,
I,
no, I'm not saying you're wrong. I don't know enough to even uh really speak to it other than information that I've read and so forth. What I do know is when I had my awakening, very clearly I heard they're killing and raping my children.
it's
And I
all
know
human
that I
hands. All of that is done by human hands. It's not the Anunnaki. It's not Dracos. It's not anything. And I say don't pass the buck, because all the atrocity of mankind has been done through human hands. Now, I'm not saying someone's not whispering in their ear and telling them,
right.
oh, you're a chosen one, and the rest of them's goyim, and you can do whatever you want. And, if they're Native American Indian and Afro-American, kill them, because they don't have souls anymore. That's the doctrine of discovery, which became, the whole reason that the genocide squad came and just slaughtered 100 million Native American Indians. And it's bullshit. It's humans that had took the bait, man. Team Bad Cop, like we talked about, will dangle those dark carrots. That's their role. You'll see if they can get you to give your energy away by seeing if they can get you to give your energy away. So yeah, man,
Well, I got caught up in that and I wasn't. I've gone through, I mean, just to
we all
respond to
have.
that for a minute.
Yeah, we all have.
Uh
You know,
yeah, I mean, and I'm not going to mention names on here, but I've heard enough from a few people making statements like, oh, Palladians will sacrifice themselves. You say no, but uh,
well,
I,
maybe in
I know,
human form, there's many of the bloodline, and they are half Pleiadian. That when you come here as a human, man, everyone goes under the veil. No one gets a free ride. Everyone gets plugged right into the human mind system at birth, right through your DNA, and you absorb all of the dreams, hopes, fears, doubts, love, and we all have to swim the moat, as Sarah says, and shed those fear-based doubt bullshit out of our own belief system,
yeah,
and we each will have our own journey, right?
I absolutely agree with that, Michael. I mean, I think God, I mean, I don't even like using the word God anymore. I like to say creator or source.
I like
And I
all that
personally,
is.
yeah, or all that is.
Mhm.
Um, so, I mean,
We
when
should
I
talk
went
about
through,
that.
I'm still, and I don't, I know I keep going back to this because I trust that at some point I'm going to have that breakthrough and be clear about it. But I just know that when I had my awakening and I started getting downloads and I was targeted, and they, I was being abducted. I was being contacted. I remember pulling on my head all night. They probably did something. I mean, I'm confident that there's been implants put in me for sure. I know there are. I mean, my right eye, I have Simon Park said it's called a scorpion implant, and it's connected to my right eye, my octave nerve going into my probably pineal gland. I'm imagining now. And he's also said, Ida, they don't like that you know who you are and what you are. Okay. Meaning that I'm Pleiadian. And I remember when I was getting information when I was started writing my book, which I haven't finished, where I said I've denied everything I was because everything I was human. And I didn't like what thoughts were through my mind of flesh. I know my true self, that is the spirit of God that dwells and lives within me. I am in love with me, meaning the spirit, the consciousness, the
Understood.
Christ heart. Yes. So I know that there's something much more that I have to contribute to humanity and the evolution that we're going through as a collective. You know, I'm very curious to know, because it's my understanding I went from Pleiades to Orion, Orion to Mars, Mars to Egypt.
That makes sense.
And yeah, um, and you and I are much more connected than I think we realize, even as much as I know it here, but I don't know how to communicate it, Michael.
I feel that too. Like I said, I thought
Yeah.
it was
I'm
interesting.
not trying to make it so. I'm
No,
telling
it
you
is
I
what
know
it
it
is.
so.
You
It
remind me much of the mannerisms of my biological mother.
interesting.
Yeah, your
Okay.
voice, even your inflections, and your yeah.
Well, I remember being in my mother's womb, but before I was born, and I did not want to come out. I did not. I remember seeing the
Not here
sun
again.
shining. Yeah, the sun shining through her belly, and I looked up and I turned back over in fetal position, and then I was snapped out of it.
Wow.
Well, it's probably, and then I've crossed over. I almost drowned, and I've a lot of things. I've been back and forth with this thing, and I'm a firm believer that we don't get to go until we do what we're here to do. Whether even if we, and I used to be
Can
I
I ask
don't
you a
know that I
question?
wanted to die. I just didn't want to feel the way I was feeling
What
anymore.
if you found out and the let's just say the Elohim, because they asked me this question, so I'm gonna ask you. Said, guess what? You've done what you came here to do. You chose love relentlessly, regardless of the outside appearance of things, but you still have a lot of time left on this planet. What do you want to do? Because you've already done it. You've put in a pathway through the mass consciousness, the 100th monkey, where now when you chose love over fear and you overcame your obstacles of trial and tribulation, those pathways are cut for other people. And they won't know it's someone else's thought because we're all part of the mass consciousness. That when they come across a trial and tribulation event and it has that same energy signature, they'll have your input in their head, but it'll be in their voice saying, hey, you could look at it this way. There might be, maybe it's not how you're perceiving it. Maybe there's a more love-filled way. It doesn't mean they'll accept it,
Yes, I
but
appreciate that, Michael.
it's
Yes,
there.
yeah, because I know I'm right there. I don't know. Yeah, there's so much that I think about, and I was so angry for quite some time, just blown away at that. When when you go through an awakening and you become aware of all the nonsense,
It's
and
frightening.
especially being a woman, if you have any kind of compassion or love in your heart, you hurt and you weep for the children
Yeah.
more, and the animals and life. And then you start realizing that, hey, wait a minute, you played a part in the dark side
Yeah.
before. You're not exempt. And yeah,
Yeah. I heard, from Enlil, and don't want I know what it sounds like when I say things like that, but I'm talking in the flesh. It's not he was Chief Golden Light Eagle here in his human meat suit, and
So would you say that he was one of the, what did we just call it? What did you just call it when there's several
the
people and
seven
one?
lords of light, seven lords of
No,
darkness?
no, no. What we just said it, and my mind's going blank. Um, there's an oversoul, and then there's soul shards or
Fractals.
fractals.
Hmm.
So would you say he was a fractal, or do you believe that he was he was actually in love?
I heard that all of the family Anunnaki, the higher ups, have 12 incarnations, that they actually have 12 pineal glands, and each one connects to a human lifetime. And 1 second to them equals 91.25 seconds of perceived human reality. So pretty much in one night's dream, they live a whole human life. And
Wow, that's fascinating.
yeah, but they said the one individual that does not have 12 fractals is myself. And I know that sounds maybe egotistical, but it is what it is. They said that was because I'm the only one that left the council back then when the council was going to let mankind perish in the last deluge. Said, hey, it must be God's will. We're not causing this pole shift, because they weren't. It's just a natural process. And their side, they didn't, Yahweh, Enlil, didn't like humans anyhow. They're noisy. They always give their energy away to illusionary outside sources. They always abuse their power over others, over themselves, and they're not good caretakers, and they destroy this planet. So let them perish. But that didn't sit well with me, because it was our genetics, the Pleiadian genetics, that became this Homo sapien and this family. So
Well, that's another. Okay, so I know that, and I'm confident in saying this. As much as you believe you are Enki and know yourself to be Enki, I know who
mhm,
I am, and I know
right
I'm the
on.
original.
That's the only thing that matters. Because think about what we've been talking about right now. Because you know how many people I get coming to me. This isn't towards you, but a lot of, hey, I'm Toth. Do you know you would know if you are who you say you are, you would know I'm Toth. I'm like, man, I met Marduk face to face, and he didn't know who I was. No one knows, even if you're of the Anunnaki incarnated here, no one knows who else is here, man. No one gets a free ride.
Well,
Everyone
Michael,
gets
I
put
will say
through.
this. I mean, and I don't mean to interrupt you. I
Mhm.
had people that just seen me and was able to read my DNA, know exactly who I was, and yeah.
It's interesting to me if a human can do that and the Anunnaki can't. I don't know. I
Well,
think a lot of
no,
people project
the
on what they
people that
want.
were reading that are highly learned and highly spiritually developed. I
I
mean,
obviously,
Simon Parks definitely, and I can say, and I'm going to make this publicly, that I owe him an apology. I was very angry for a while because I felt that he could have helped me more than he was willing to, but I didn't realize that he was one of my teachers
right on.
for me to learn and understand.
All I can say is you can't learn who you are from someone else telling you. Like you said, you know thyself.
Well,
And
I didn't need
um,
this. Okay, maybe you're not. I got downloads. My DNA was activated, and I was receiving information, and I had orbs in my house, and I was all these things. Then I had people. I didn't share with anybody anything that had happened with me. I didn't even understand what the hell was going on. I knew when I received that I hold this Magdalene DNA that I didn't feel worthy, that I didn't feel, how could I be this person? And,
yeah,
because she's
I get
been,
it.
yeah.
I think
And then
people
I
around
realized,
you
wait a minute, she was involved in some very dark things.
I
People
think
think, yeah.
people around you can be, I don't want to say used, but a conduit for these higher sources, and there is light and dark. So if one of the light side needs to think you need to know some information, someone you're talking to might just blurt it out. Hey, you're Mary Magdalene, and they might not even, if you went back to them today and said, do you remember telling me that? They might not even remember. I've had this happen too.
Well,
That
that's possible.
that
Yeah.
spirit is using people around you to convey a message, but it could be just the same on the dark side.
Well, I don't
And
depend
and
on
I'm
anybody to tell me. I don't need, first off, I'm not attached to that being Mary Magdalene. I'm not. I mean,
it is what it is, though.
well, the word Magdalene means tower of feminine energy. And I give every woman on this planet that is truly in her higher self and her pure essence of her divinity, that truly has the nurturing, loving kindness a divine feminine, besides the fact that we are super powerful in our when we want, especially being a Pleiadian, I'll speak for myself. I'm very protective over those that I love. And if it meant sacrifice, and maybe that's not smart, and maybe I still have learning to do, but if I had to give my life to protect children or animals or people I love, I would. I would.
understood. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, tricky
So
part though is
people can
Yahweh
say, "Oh,
said,
that's not smart. You're putting people." Okay. I mean, maybe I haven't evolved yet. I don't know. To that.
no, I think it's the good that one of the ways they tried to trick me into the circle, I'm talking about the dark side, was one of the head of that side had a dream, and in it, one of my friends that was sun dancing for the first time uh, collapsed and fell, and that's what drew me into their circle. So I didn't know this, but he had arranged for a friend of mine in the real life to fake passing out. And because he knew in the dream, that's what brought me into the circle. I ended up pierced and hanging from the tree, or hanging from the cross. You see what I'm saying? So all I can tell you, I'm just sharing this information, is they had me fooled, actually. I was going in the circle because they asked my friend to fake passing out, and he did. He said, "Oh, okay. Well, I already knew this is not necessary to give your flesh and blood. This is not." And Yahweh agreed, And so when this was going on, my friend collapsed, faking it. And after about 10 minutes of laying there like a dead rag doll and not moving at all, I was starting to go into panic mode. And then the other sun dancers went and grabbed him and went to drag him to the tree. And that's when I flipped out. I stood up and said, "I will tear this fucking place apart. Not on my watch," And I was going in to throw him over my shoulder. But think of this. They had me responding to total illusion as if it was reality.
I
That,
get it, Michael. I've learned
yeah,
that. I realize that now since connecting with you and talking. I realize that.
it's tricky.
But
But,
but it really
afterwards,
feels so real that
yeah, you don't
it's
know
yeah,
no
yeah,
difference. And so what Yahweh told me afterwards, he said, "Michael, glad you didn't enter, because they had their sights on you." And
yeah.
matter of fact, before that, he said, "Michael, if you enter that circle, you're going to be laying on the ground, crawled up in a fetal position with your thumb in your mouth. You're going to have the cleanest thumb at anybody in this whole place." That frightened me. I'm like, I told him I wouldn't participate. I didn't know they were going to try to fake me in. So afterwards, he said, "Michael, what you experience is the trickiest way the dark have to get you to enter their territory, through love and compassion." Isn't that something?
Yep.
And
I've
he
had
said
my
that,
fair share of yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
and they'll use it against you,
They'll
and it
use
might
it
not even
against
be
you.
real. Like
That's
in my
right.
case, it was, they're tugging on my love and compassion to, like, I'm not gonna sit here and watch my friend who needs help not get help. And but the reality of the situation, he was never in harm's way. I was responding to set up illusion by them. That's, people don't understand, because I don't really get the chance to explain this. But when I say the dark are very adept at making things appear as what they're not, and they can get you in your own mind even to look at things in a very negative way, like, "Oh, is this happening again? Why am I getting screwed over again?" And even, I think, like we said, they can influence people's words, and they know that the words that come out, you're not you, but the proverbial you will take
I get
in a
it.
certain way. And it was never intended, to be that way. But I can tell you, is any of this is true, um, in 2016, that shut down this experiment to accelerate human conscious evolution. It was right before the end of the age of Pisces. The first day of the age of Aquarius was December 21st, 2016, not 2012. All of our math and timekeeping given to us by the Anunnaki back in Sumeria is 432 based math and physics. And you can prove this to yourself. Just look at how many seconds is in 12 hours. It's 43,200 or 432. So since all light and physical matter that's made light and sound, right, create physical reality, it's all 432 based. 432 times 432 becomes C, E equals mc squared. C is the
Well,
speed of
you
light.
know those things. I don't. I'm definitely not a. I think that there's a block to prevent me from
It's all good.
really.
We all have our gifts in different ways, but really all you need to do is go, you know what, man? Light is frequency. And the frequency is 432. It's the only frequencies that even mathematically, which everything in the universe, no matter what race you are or what universe you're in, it's universal. And 432 times 432 is the speed of light within 1% accuracy. So I don't even know why we went there. But
We were. I don't know either, but I definitely know this. I well, I'll say this, Michael. I'm looking forward to. I think this issue with the reptilians and the Pleiadians that have been going on for millennia.
yeah.
I would like to know when that's going to come to an end. I'd like to know when we're all going to sit at the table and break bread and choose love over fear,
I don't
or
even know what to say about it,
love
because
over
honestly,
dominance.
you and one other person, well, I trust impeccably. This is the person from the NSA reverse engineering remote viewers that was assigned as my partner. He said he's met reptilians, and you said you've met reptilians. I have never met a reptilian. Every single extraterrestrial that I'll tell you, the one person, even over Yahweh, but that same family.
Michael, if you have O negative blood type, you have high reptilian DNA.
I don't
Just
know.
saying.
I
I
I
mean,
think
you don't
any
have
of
to
that
agree with
other
me,
other
but
than
but
you
that's
or
yeah,
him, I'm
yeah.
like, all this information that's coming in with reptilians. I'm like, well, have you ever met one? No. It's to me, and see, I'm not saying it's
You're we can agree to disagree, Michael.
right
It's
on. I don't know if I even buy draconian reptilian. I know the dark side can appear as whatever they want, and they will be whatever you need them
I'm
to
telling
be.
you that I
Um,
know exactly. I've been with I traveled in astral travel and met with Anunnaki. I've also met with reptilian.
Honestly, I
Reptilian.
don't take this the wrong way. Physical. Have you met one and it's
Oh
because
yeah,
anything else to
I've
me
watched. I mean,
is
I
because
know.
I
Okay, I haven't actually seen the reptilian form. What I have seen when I go around certain people, just my energy field will
Mhm.
activate them for whatever reason. And either if they're in high vibration of love and joy or happiness, their eyes will shift in front of me, or if they're very angry. Now, I was raised by reptilians, and I am a Pleiadian, and I know exactly who I am. Okay, and I'm not
understood.
saying that to be, I don't see myself as special. I don't see myself as
But why do you
greater
think that they're
or better,
reptilian? Did you see them
but
like shapeshift and become physical as a
well,
reptilian form, or is it
I've
energy?
I've had my fair share. I'll tell you, and I've already shared with you, and I won't share it on here because it's not my place to do that. But I've shared with you who I believe is the person I know to be Jesus,
Mhm.
or his name is Azula. It's not Jesus. His real name, or his name back then, should I say, because her name was never Mary, it was Ishtar. Okay, and I'm confident I know exactly who he is, and I know who he is because I have memory.
Is he reptilian? Is that what you're saying?
He is.
And how
Absolutely.
have you
And
seen him in
why
reptilian
do you think
form?
the Vatican has this in the big hall with the snake eyes and
It's
the
flipped though, man.
cross?
Why does the serpent have so much negative connotation? Because
I'm
even in
not
the
saying it's
Bible,
negative. I'm just trying to tell. I'm not saying it's good, bad, right, or wrong. I'm just saying this is yeah.
I'm just being totally honest with you. Unless someone is physically in the physical, because if we talk not even like astral or dreams, which a lot of the secret space program, everything happens. I was aboard and I was space raped, and then I woke up in my bed. I'm like, man, that's a fucking bad dream, is what that is. If you want to talk about what happens in dreams, we can talk about my dreams of meeting zombies. Then, I have a direct line
Well,
of,
I
did
mean,
this happen in the physical? Did you meet them face to face, or is it that? Because personally, I've never met a reptilian, and so I can't say
and
anything of
I
that.
I get it. I'm not trying to
Mm.
convince you.
No,
That's for
no,
sure. I'm
yeah,
just letting you know my experiences, just like you had yours. I have mine, and maybe we can, put some pieces
yeah,
together, Michael. I'm not, listen, I have family members that have high reptilian DNA, and I love them very much. Now, there's
yeah,
been a big divide between us because I went through my awakening and I tried to explain to my family what I was experiencing and the targeting and the abductions and the my lab and the military jumping out. I mean, I've got on my email and I've got paperwork where my house was being broken into and the police were involved and all kinds of just nonsense. But
yeah.
you don't send, and Laura Eisenhower told me, she said, Ida, stay away from them. The guy they sent, Rick Johnson was his name, but that's probably not his real name, that worked at the Pentagon the last 5 years of his 20-year career, told me, Ida, if I didn't know you were special, I'd have left you alone a long time ago. Now, not special in that I'm special in whatever, obviously special to them. There was a great interest in me for whatever reason. And I have a feeling I know what that reason is. And I don't need to. My point is, and what I did notice, his hands, he didn't have a third of, so he used to hide his like try and hide it from me. And I was like, Rick, you got to know I know you're here more than just because you like me. You got
Hmm.
to know that. And I would annoy, he would get annoyed because I tried to get information out of him. And he knew that I was on to him.
Hmm.
But, and then
Let
I
me ask
changed
you
my
something.
Wi-Fi. And when I changed my Wi-Fi address and got a new router, he came banging at my door a month. I hadn't even talked to him in over a month. Like I had cut him off. He showed up at my door because that's the way they do their abductions, through Wi-Fi, through the AI, through the electrical system.
Yeah, I can understand that, but it's been going on a lot longer than that, you know.
I'm sure.
Let me ask you, because this is interesting conversation, and someone told me too about all this. They said, and to me, and I really like the question. They said, "Well, who are you without the name?" And it was James Gillian, actually, and I thought that's a fantastic question, because we've all lived many lives, and who
Mhm.
are you now, man? Because, well, like we said, in a lot of past lives, I was a dick, and probably did some horrible things. And
Well, I
really, I think
appreciate.
too,
Yeah,
if you want to bring out my worst behavior, torture me and my family, you'll get the
yeah.
worst behavior possible. But to me, what again, we're just talking out loud, because I wouldn't be doing your show if I didn't like you and I didn't believe your energy is right. But
I appreciate
with
that, Michael.
with a lot of people, what I was going to say too, a lot of people that come to me, and want, like, I can't confirm who any. I'm not saying to you, but you got to know yourself. You can't wait for confirmation from someone else. And really, none of it matters, because all that matters is what's right in front of you right now. Because hopefully we've taken all that life pool of life knowledge that we've gained from thousands of years of incarnating here. We're going to do better this time, right? We're going to choose love over fear.
Absolutely. And
And
that's why I have you on my show, because I appreciate that. I
right on.
appreciate your message, and I appreciate
To,
your
to me, I'll tell you
uh,
something that I really focus on, and I'm just being very honest with. You bring a lot of beauty, and even in your insights and your way of communicating. There's a lot of people who talk a lot of spiritual things, and I'm like, show me what beauty you brought into this world. Show me some poetry you've made, or a painting, or a sculpture, or music, or anything of something that's enriching the human. I think Katie.
yeah, I don't know what she's doing.
um
Any, what is that? Okay. Hold on 1 second, Michael, please.
Mhm.
Let me just check on this. Katie. She's gotten some new computer and it's evident it's been
Computer
okay.
hell, I call that.
Yeah. Show is being disrupted. Okay, something's not right. Let me just say this past week, I guess leading up to the full moon in Gemini, there's just been so much odd stuff going
Crazy
on.
energy, huh?
Yeah.
I've been feeling it
But
too,
I
especially
appreciate
with the
that.
electronics and
Yeah.
stuff.
Hopefully it looks like it might have stopped, I hope.
Let me tell you one thing about people like coming into my field, and there's one person who, beyond anything, they showed me something. And it was a grandmother, and interestingly enough, her name was Grandmother Morningstar. But she asked me if I'd go for a ride in her minivan. Now, mind you, this is a grandmother of the Native American Nephilim bloodline, and they know who they are, by the way. It's not even a question to them. They know. And she said, will you go for a ride with me? And I said, well, sure, And she said, I want to talk to you about the migration of our bloodline into North America, which became America. And she said, wouldn't it be nice if I had a map of the United States to use? And she waved her hand over her minivan window, and a map of the United States appeared out of nowhere. It looked like a Star Wars computer holographic, all red map that was like took up the hole in front of her. And she looked at me and she said, I know you can see it. Yeah, it's right there. There was no not seeing it. And she used it for 15 minutes to show me how the bloodline. And so if you think about this intelligence, being able to manipulate physical matter in that way, that's the only person I've ever met that in front of my face showed me something,
I remember
But
you mentioning that. Michael, what is the deal with okay, so you mentioned it in our last show, if you don't mind me asking you,
Mhm.
because you just made me think about the migration. So the Palestinian connection to the American Indians of can you help me understand that a little bit? Like,
Yeah, they said actually we're talking about the Atlantean uh, bloodline. And there was actually three breakups of Atlantis. One went back 50,000 years ago. And when the first breakup happened, some of the Atlanteans went to the right. And then the second was 27,000 years ago, and that was the biblical flood deluge event. And again, more of the Atlanteans went to the right and in the European continent, becoming what's known as the Basque people. They'll tell you right away, like we're Atlantean. They know, they still have that knowledge within their people.
I
But
never heard of
10,000,
the Bosque. I'll have to look that up. The
yes,
Bosque, B O
Basque,
S K,
B
B O
A
S B
K.
A S K.
I believe so.
Okay,
Don't slap me
I'll look
around
it
if
up.
I'm wrong.
I'm definitely going to look into that. Interesting.
But 10,500 years ago was the last breakup, and it was a comet impact. And the elders stayed behind the sinking ship. Edgar Casey called he called the Atlanteans the Poseidians. Poseidon
I
is
think I've
inky.
heard of. I
He's a
think
water bearer,
yeah.
you know.
Okay,
Um,
but where does the Palestinians
so
connect?
that's where we get into right now. The
Okay,
last
sorry.
migration of the Atlanteans 10,500 years ago went to the left instead of to the right. And for the first time, they came up to the bottom of the North American continent, joining the Mayan culture. They taught them pyramid building, the calendar, and but think this experiment that the Anunnaki did to make us evolve on a consciousness level by making us experience our own mental energy unbiasedly, you know, is been going on for 27,000 years. It was started during the last after the deluge to help us evolve as quick as possible. When we're talking about even 10,500 years ago and them going into Mexico, this experiment to accelerate light and dark, human conscious evolution, had been going on a long time. So wherever us good cop members went, bad cop was soon to follow. So once and Cody Quetzal, went to Mexico, and we're always known as culture bearers and bringing science and culture. But sooner or later, no matter where we went, blood sacrifice, that's the highest way of giving your energy and like you're giving your energy and your I am and your sovereignty away to bullshit is what's happening. So everywhere we went in Mexico, all of a sudden they started sacrificing people, going, well, we need to appease the gods, and so the elders are like, shit, well, they've
Okay,
learned
but what
something.
about the God that requires sacrifice in order
There is
to?
no God that requires sacrifice. Don't follow that God because it's bullshit.
Well, I'm definitely not following that God, but
yeah, they'll see if they can get you to do it. That's their gig, But all throughout this time period, that's their gig. So
to get you to sacrifice yourself or to sacrifice another.
Yeah, or it's an animal, or you'll just keep you going down that path.
Well, you said that you know of, and I don't, because I want to get back to that because I want to hear where the Palestinians.
Well, we're right there because
okay.
They once the blood sacrifice ceremonies set in to the Mayan culture, they got the hell out of Dodge, and it's actually this bloodline that we're talking about, and this is science. Haplogroup X2A. That's the bloodline that is the Inky Anunnaki human hybrid bloodline on this planet. If you look into
I wonder if I could figure out. I mean, I don't need
you being Palestinian. I'd be shocked if it wasn't, because what happened was these are man, see, some of this gets biblical, and it's weird to me because I'm not biblical and I'm not Mormon, but I'll tell you what, the Mormons know what we're talking about.
I've heard,
What
and
I can
need
tell
to
you,
study some of that.
King Solomon had under his control the lost tribe of Israel, the Sangreal Holy Grail bloodline. This is Inky's bloodline, where the Anunnaki, and the only way that you can even incarnate into that bloodline is it has to be haplogroup X2A. And that was only found in the late 1990s, not that long ago. And what they found was 3% of Native American Indian cultures have haplogroup X2A. But could be much higher because just not a lot of Indians have had their blood work done, right?
Yeah.
When you go backwards in time, you'll find that these tall skeletal remains, giants, that have been removed out of these mound sites are also haplogroup X2A. But then when you keep going backwards in time, when you find the largest concentration of this bloodline, that's going to be home base, right? It's the hills of Galilee. And so this lost tribe of Israel goes into the Mayan culture first, brings culture, brings pyramid building, brings calendar, but then blood sacrifice ceremonies kick in. They go, let's get the hell out of Dodge. They come through, what's the name of that? The Gulf there. Anyhow, right into Crystal River, Florida. And what you'll find is,
I know. I'm looking forward to meeting you and Sarah at some point. And
we'll meet there because wait till you feel it. But that's the place where they just recently found a Mayan step pyramid. And there are more mounds there as well. And what you'll find then is a trade route was formed between Crystal River, Florida, and the Iroquois right on the shores of Lake Erie. And you'll find in their culture, you'll find a lot of seashells that were used for wampum belts for the Iroquois. Wampum means white shell, and it's actually from Florida.
Most of it. That's kind of cool.
But when you go to Crystal River, those mounds are made of seashells. They're seashell mounds. So when the grandmother showed me the migration route, she showed me it entering Florida, Crystal River, Florida. And then what she did is say the map in your third eye, picture the map of America. And then on the top left-hand corner of the top of Florida, she drew one candy cane with the loop going to the right. And then in the middle, another one. Oops. And then on the right side, another loop that went up and over the Great Lakes area. She said, really, you could think of this as the Lakota, Dakota, and Nakota of the Sioux. They have retained their star knowledge the most out of any of the tribes. But that track that on the right goes all the way up and around the Great Lakes. You got the Huron tribe in Canada, you got the Iroquois, and you got the Cherokee also on that candy cane migration route. And that's interesting too, because what I've learned is the Iroquois, Seneca specifically, have the highest numbers of this bloodline, but most are still sleeping. They're not awakened
Yeah,
to who they
yeah,
are.
yeah.
Or the Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, and Dakota, the Sioux, have retained their knowledge most. But then I know that you think they have a lot of knowledge, but a lot of them has accepted those dark carrots and are still practicing blood sacrifice ceremonies. So be careful where you get your information from, and how,
Oh, I'm very,
how,
I sit with myself an awful lot, Michael, and I will tell you, and I say this with great humility. I I sit with myself, and I use my own body as a pendulum if I need to.
right
But
on.
most importantly, I sit in my heart, and what I need to know or confirm within myself to know it to be a truth is revealed to me. I don't need
Yeah,
anything outside of me.
that's the
Everything
way
is
to
already
be,
within
man.
me.
Everything, you got
That's
everything,
right.
right? If every bit of
Everything
it
is already
contains all of
within
it.
me, and I'm not here to um, be harmful or hurtful to anybody. I know through my awakening that I have really put my family through some crap because I was just trying to understand, to be honest. I
Yeah,
mean,
you know what?
trying to make sense of things. And
Exactly what we're talking about, and getting hunted down, right? Um,
I was hunted down.
I
I mean,
know, I
yeah,
understand, because I was
yeah.
too. And I had to stop myself, because what I realized, that whole thing of where your intention goes, energy flows.
Sure.
And what I what was happening was, when I first met the Anunnaki, it was not pleasant. It was I it was not pleasant. And especially after I met them, like, the council came, and if the dark and the light are going to vet you, the dark is going to see if they can get you to give your energy away to illusionary outside
Mhm.
sources. And Yahweh said, this is all about self-inflicted suffering. They can't do anything to you unless you open the back door and say, come on in.
Right,
But
you
then,
permission it. That's right.
yeah, you got to give
And
it
I
permission.
and I did, Michael, and that was what was so hard for me. And I don't mean to
We all
interrupt you,
do. They're
but
tricky.
yeah,
They are
yeah,
super tricky. But
yeah.
then the light side, he said, if the dark is going to see if it's all about self-inflicted suffering through your own free will, the light side is going to see what kind of love and compassion you bring to any suffering that comes your way. Total flip side of that. And I guess that's kind of like they say in the Bible, angels will come as the homeless to you.
Okay, let
And
me tell you a story real quick.
sure.
When all that was going on, when I was going through my Kundalini awakening and having all these experiences, I was on my way somewhere, and there was a man. So downtown Silver Spring, we're talking, if you walk not even 15 minutes, you're right on the DC Maryland line. Now, mind you, by the way, the downloads, I got a lot of downloads, but what they were using was practical stuff like for Ida. The word Ida is Ida, the name is the Ida, which is the divine feminine energy that runs up and down your spine. The A is silent, so it's pronounced Ida. The A you don't, right? So
I
in
thought I
God's,
had that in my long term, but
okay. And I was born in the state of Maryland. My birthday is 8/7, which is for the divine feminine. 8 is the number for the female, and 7. And we know 7 is a sacred number, right? Simon Parks's birthday is 9/7. Now, he mentioned in some of his lectures that from a reptilian perspective, 8/7 is the female, 9/7 is the male. While there are other, like we talked about other women, or you said 7. I understand it's 9 that hold the Magdalene DNA, but there's only one Eve. So there
Yeah, that makes
are,
sense.
okay, and I know who she is. So my point, downtown, I go walking to go somewhere and I see this man sitting on what was like a plank, like a brick sitting place where they had like trees downtown Silver Spring, and he's sitting there and his hands look swollen and his feet look swollen, and he was wrapped in garment and his hair was to his shoulders and he had a little beard. And I went to give him $5 because I used to give like $1 or 2 out or 5, but that day I was feeling good and I'm like, all right, I'm going to give him $5. And I can see him in my mind's eye right now, but I didn't realize it then. And there's a reason I'm telling you this, because I wrote in my book, sometimes I move too fast that I don't slow down to hear God's spirit spoken words. So as I walked by, and he was an angel for sure, I know this, or something, and he said, thank you. And I was too busy going my way, and I'm walking. I'm like, you're welcome, like this, like I'm waving, but he's behind me, like letting him know you're welcome. His voice was like, it was the most beautiful. And I got home and I realized, oh my God, that was an angel. I just gave $5 to Ida. Slow
Well,
down. And
you just got some bonus points.
huh?
You got some bonus points.
I mean, I help anybody I can. I'm not, I had to learn to, I'm still learning
Well,
because
you're reminding
I,
me,
yeah,
I had a
I,
very similar
I'm
thing.
very giving, Michael. And, I am a giving and I love to give. We love to give gifts. Pleiadians are very kind, loving people. Not that we aren't, we don't fight if we don't need, well, so you say Pleiadians don't, they learn to battle just by simply not participating in the battle with loving kindness. Is that
Well,
what you
that's
said?
what, one of them that people would know is Kuan Yin. She's here in the physical. She's a nurse, by the way, and very,
Okay.
very enlightened. But she told me a story about a horse that survived the Civil War. And when it got into heaven, God said, how did you not get wrapped up into what was going on? He said, I went to the war where the war wasn't.
Wow.
I
Powerful
thought that was
statement
pretty
right there.
profound.
Yes. Yep. I
Even when it's
agree.
going on around you in your mind, go to where the war isn't,
Yeah.
you know. But
I
I can,
love that, Michael.
isn't it
I
beautiful?
love that. I love
Mhm.
that. Yes,
Yeah.
for
Because
sure.
if you stay where the
Well,
war
I
is,
mean,
then
I suppose not to, because we always have a choice, and I am a firm believer in that. And I'm not the best. Sometimes I just blurt stuff out and I don't think things through sometimes. And I realize that
I
maybe,
love spontaneity, though.
yeah.
I say
Well,
be spontaneous. Why
yeah,
not?
so I'm definitely spontaneous, that's for sure. But I am a Leo, and I am an Aquarius rising and Aquarius moon. And I was born 1968, August 7th. I was born on a full moon in Aquarius. And
You
my
know,
rising is Aquarius, so I definitely know, yeah, there's
not
yeah.
to, because I don't know anything about astrology. I've never been into astrology. And I'd like to learn more, but can I ask you something? Because you seem to be very knowledgeable about
Well,
it.
I mean, I don't know that much, Michael. Honestly, other people help me, but if I can
Well,
answer, I
even
will.
intuitively, what would it mean when I met my biological birth mother? I was born on her birthday, meaning, March
Interesting.
11th. I was born on March 11th. So we both share the exact same
Okay, I
birthday.
got
So that's
married
easy
on
to
March
remember.
11th, by the way, my first
Yeah.
husband, which is very ironic. But I don't know the answer to that, Michael. I would
I don't
love
know
to be
either. It
able to
might be
say that
not. It
to you.
might be nothing, but I thought it was odd. And
No, I
in my
think
chart
there's
too, I can
something. You
tell
don't
you
have your first child on your
on your
birthday.
birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My brother had that. I have a brother that had his first child born on his birthday. And he's a Gemini. He's an amazing guy too, but um yeah. And and it was his house that I had the dream about meeting Enki. So I think there's something with that, but I don't know.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, here we are.
Yeah, here we are.
Imagine
That's
that.
super awesome.
What I
Michael, I
want to tell you
trust
about,
that more is going, the more I mean, not that I just feel like the more conversations you and I have, the more probably we will be able to, even if we don't recognize, even if it's not in this time, but more things will come to us. I believe that.
I
Uh,
believe it too. That's
yeah,
I
and
enjoy
I
these
trust that
conversations.
my heart is in the right place. I know yours is. I can't wait to meet Sarah. I want
Yeah,
her to know
you
that
guys would be
I
like
admire
sisters.
her. Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah, she's something else.
Yeah, she is. And, just, yeah,
You know what's
I look
interesting? It
forward to
just hit me.
meeting you both. But so let me think for a minute. So I know that, what's his name? Sasha,
Leslie?
Sasha, yeah,
Hmm.
has written a lot about the, Anunnaki and
Yeah, yeah.
their, and I know that his beloved, I forgot her name now, she
Janet?
contacted me to do an interview with her years ago, and I never did.
Janet. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
Jen.
friends with both of them.
Yeah, yeah. And I wasn't ready at the time when she was asking me. I don't know. I didn't know, the ego mind. It's like when I first woke up, I will be honest. My ego got the best of me. It did, and I was trying to understand, and then I got a good, you know, humble pie, if you will, where I was put on my butt and had to sit and work through my dark night of the soul and, do a lot of, and I'm still doing shadow work. And I feel like I'm just coming out of the heaviness to
Hmm.
where I can really not be so enraged. There was a time when I was very enraged, Michael. I was angry. I mean, I had shadow beings jumping out. I had gin in my home. My hair got cut out of my head.
That's what
Hair.
I wanted to talk to you about, though. I experienced, because believe me, if this intelligence can become anything from a giant wolf or a giant deer to a giant triangular craft, and anywhere in time, it's outside of our space time. So it can be anywhere and any when. Um, it it can bring up in you, because what happened to me was James Casbolt. Actually, I came across James Bolt's because he was being considered for this remote viewer engineering uh, division as well. And for whatever reason, I can tell you they didn't allow him in, for whatever that is. But when I read his stuff, it brought out fear in me, because underground bases, reptilians, they're killing hookers, and and really, what I did was I put a big fear stamp on. And my reaction was, I hope to God this isn't real. Well, thoughts create reality. What did I do other than put a big fear stamp on that? And what I experienced is what I was focusing on. And I was hunted down by the Men in Black. Just what I'm talking about. And
Oh,
it's
I
pretty weird
definitely
when
do.
it's something, it's not normal, it's paranormal, and it knows what you're thinking.
Well,
And
I think, yeah. Go ahead.
no,
I
that's
wanted
it.
to.
I had
Okay,
to stop myself from realizing, you know,
Michael. This is how I see it. Can I just say something? Let me. You
yeah.
know, they knew that. Okay, if you can appreciate, and I know you know this because you're much more learned in mathematics and all that stuff that I don't get, but I intuitively can feel energetically when I'm hearing something. It's
Hmm.
like it makes sense to me, right? They know our soul has a sound and color frequency when we come in. There was a reason I was left at the hospital for 3 days and wasn't brought home with my mother. There's a reason for that because they knew who I was prior to coming in,
Hmm.
and they were preparing me for whatever I was here to do in order so that my body, because my body avatar has been augmented in order for me to be here and to carry out the missions I was here to carry out. So I was told that I was left at the hospital because I had a tear duct infection in my right tear duct. My oldest sister told me that. I know now, no, that's the same eye that I can see I remember being a kid laying in the sun and playing with the, rolling my eyes around, trying to figure out what this thing was in my eye, right? And I could see it. And when I did a session with Simon, and I did quite a few, he told me it was called a scorpion implant. But he said, Ida, you broke programming. He said, first off, he said, they tried to break you, but they weren't able to. And he said, and I know this to be true because I know that I would give my life before I would harm a child or an animal or anything else. I
Yeah.
know that. I know myself. Last time I spoke with him, Michael, I was going to talk to him and I had this thought, am I the wife of, before I could finish the sentence in my mind, I didn't even speak it. He said, Ida, you're clearer now than I've ever seen you. And I haven't spoke to him again. Okay. And there's a reason for that. So I know exactly. Okay. And it's, if we appreciate that we live different lifetime or different parallel lifetimes, all right here, right now, there really is no time. Everything
Right.
is
It's
happening right
simultaneous.
here, right now. But
Yeah.
in this moment in reality, because we could appreciate that time is a social agreement. We say, okay, at 6 o'clock, we're going to gather and we're going to have this conversation, right? And we're going to share information and do our best to bring valuable information to humanity. And they can take it for what it's worth, whatever they want to, and do their own research or come to terms or whatever. Back
Yeah.
to, you mentioned James Casbolt. I do appreciate James is where I got, and I'll send you the clip where he, in one interview he did with Miles Johnson, he said that they take women to Saturn and it's through they have these trees that they hang them and sacrifice them.
Yeah. You know what,
Okay,
though? When you
wait,
focus on,
before I ever heard that, before I ever heard it, I have memory of being taken and hung by my feet upside down, and they were pushing me like this, trying to push me into I don't know what. And I was able to flip myself out and get back to my body.
yeah, the past lives, though, we've all been tortured.
Well,
We.
maybe it was a past life memory. I mean, I don't know, but I know Chris Keller told me, Ida, you were used as a Illuminati sacrifice to Moloch. And I've tried to figure out who the hell this Moloch is. I mean, we hear the biblical. Yeah.
Nah, that's Babylonian, Bohemian Grove. The owl stick.
Yeah.
You know
But
about that?
back in biblical
They
days, like okay. So okay.
I'd say it would be
Well,
Marduk, Ra.
you think so?
Yeah, the one that he's here to make sure all your nightmares come true,
Yeah.
but to make sure nothing dirties you
Okay.
through.
But so that's interesting that you bring up Marduk because Marduk was the son of Enki.
Mhm.
So how does that work?
Because he took on this role because I asked him to in the intelligence acceleration software, and it's the worst job in the universe. Imagine that they call us Lulus, and he loved us Lulus, but to take on the job so we could become clean and experience our own dark thought form in hopes we could change it, because energy has an electromagnetic reality. It has waveform, has energy. Energy can't be created or destroyed. It needs to be transmuted. How do you transmute a negative thought form? No one asks the question. Well, you live it. That's how. It comes up into your own personal reality. And if you can choose love over the fear-based way you've responded to it in the past, it will transmute and it won't keep recirculating in your life. But if you don't, and you keep choosing those same responding with fear and doubt and fear, we'll just keep it fear. You keep responding with fear, it keeps recirculating over and over and over again. And you'll keep saying, why is the same shit keep happening to me? Over and it's like different people, but it's the same experience.
Well, all the same lesson. That's right. Until you learn it. And I know that for sure because
keep
I moved
repeating.
here, 2 suitcases in my soul. When I left Maryland, I said, this is it. I'm not, to the best of my ability, I will not be used in these, because I know that I was used for multi-dimensional battle. I remember, and you brought up fire earlier. I remember trying to get past this man, and he had what looked like a big, I don't know what it was, like a torch of fire, and he was not going to let me by. And I don't know if that, I was trying to get into another timeline dimension. I don't know what it was, and I remember being gang stalked in the lower fourth dimension. I stepped out of my body, walked around my apartment, told these kids to get out of my apartment. I mean, it was pretty fascinating for sure. But
I've
there
had
was a
some
full
strange shit
operation
like that.
going on with me when I had my awakening. They weren't letting me go anywhere. I was definitely being hunted down, without a doubt.
I was too
And,
until I said no, and it
oh,
stopped for
me
me.
too. I said no, and I moved to Florida.
You're not
But
gonna,
how interesting that I decide Florida of all places. Why my dad's side of the
right? You're
family
next
is
to
here.
homeland.
Well, yeah, and
Crystal
you're
River.
here, and I believe from a higher perspective that my soul family is definitely. I'm going to be connecting more. I am connecting more and more. The people I used to, you know, be connected to, and it's not that I'm not connected to them now on Facebook and some of the people that I've become super friendly with, and that I hold in high regards. But it seems like this new wave of people I've now met, and I just feel I'm more in alignment with because my energy has shifted, and I've had to come to terms with a lot of things, Michael. I mean, yeah,
Gotta swim the moat.
yeah, that's
Sarah
right.
says.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I agree with her. But I am looking. It's been a tough thing for me because I didn't know whether it's the best thing for me to do is to walk away from my human family, and I feel like I'm a nomad. Like I don't the I feel like what the healing that I have attempted to do and continue to do. I shouldn't say attempted. I've done a great deal of healing, but where I'm at in my healing process now, it's difficult. It's like being an addict and you keep going back hanging out with addicts. You can't do that.
No, you gotta separate. Yeah, you
Right.
gotta be
So I feel like I
responsible and
have to.
don't. You know what I heard is what you say no to is a direct reflection of the yes that then can come. You got to set boundaries. Oh no, I don't allow that kind of behavior in my
Well, I'm not
circle.
talking. My families aren't addicts, but I'm saying
Not even
I feel
friends,
there's been
anything.
a lot of trauma bonding, and I'm trying to and codependent behaviors and gaslighting, all this stuff. All these psychological words that I don't want. I want to be. It's like I'm. What's the word I want to use? Not tease and mock. My family thinks I'm too sensitive, and I'm a very loving and affectionate person. If I care about you, I give lots of hugs, and I go out of my way for people.
Well,
And
that's
then I
what you should
realize,
be.
hey, wait a minute, am I
Don't
doing
listen.
that? Huh?
Don't listen to them. That's what you should be. Hallelujah.
Well, that's right. But
Yeah.
but when you're rejected, then you start thinking there's something wrong with you, and then it's put in your mind. Well, ask yourself, why are you doing it? Of course, I want to be loved. I don't look. I don't buy gifts for people because I want them to love me. I love myself.
Right
But
on. I totally get it. Yeah. It feels good
yeah,
to spread love. It's a much better feeling than spreading the other shit, right?
but when you do it and you do it and you do it, and people reject you, and I'm not a victim, and I will not play victim. I've never been that, but I've never allowed myself to really have compassion for myself for the experiences I went through because I didn't have time to be a victim. I had to do what I had to do to take care of myself. I just don't know. I mean, I'm learning.
If I could share anything with you, that the only thing, especially with when past life recall starts to come and you start to know who you are and stuff, what I found is the only thing that's real is the moment. I call it the moment point. That's your moment of power. And nothing, everything else is illusion, man. Like you said, everything's happening now. The only thing that's real is now. And if you pull yourself out in the past or project it into the future, you've missed your moment of power. The only time that you can enact any change in your life and in your own consciousness is now, in the moment. So if you're thinking about, well, this moment isn't what I thought it would be, and you're thinking about what you thought it would be instead of what it is, you've missed your moment of power. If you're thinking
Well,
about
I love this moment right here, right now,
yeah,
because
it's a
this
good
is
one.
awesome. Mhm.
So, but the same way, if you think about what you're doing a week ago in your mind, you've missed your moment of power. If you're stuck in your cell phone, you've missed your moment of power. There could be a fucking spaceship come down right in front of you and you're not even going to see it because you're stuck in your cell phone. In the same way, if you pull yourself out and project into the future, oh, I got shopping to do tomorrow. Of course, we got to make lists and prepare. But if you're mentally too preoccupied with the future, then the same way you've missed your moment of power. But in the same way, if I'm thinking about what I did a week ago instead of what's right now, I've missed my moment of power. If I thought about who I was as Inky and I put all my energy into that, I've missed my moment of power. Like none of it matters to me anymore. Names, like I don't think truly we have names. We have energy signatures, you know?
Oh, for sure. And
Um,
guess what? The power, if you want to say the powers, they know them for without a doubt. And I
yeah.
do
I
believe
could
that
tell
there
you
will
though,
come
I
a
gotta
day
share
when
one thing because when you
yeah,
said in your dreams and stuff, and one thing I can do is I can, it's like a Marvel comic book. Sometimes in these dreams when they're trying to attack me, I can just bring out Inky. And it's like I can actually in my dreams put my fingers around their head and go,
I
fuck
love
off.
that.
It
I'd
doesn't have
love to learn that. Yeah.
sometimes it's not, and I can't like become lucid and take control of the situation. When I do, it's pretty comical because I can just wave bad guys and we're not even in front of each other. I'm just like, bam, they're flying against the wall. Bam, bam. No, you're not fucking with me. Sorry, not today. So other
Yeah.
times, it's disturbing because I don't know why. For a lot there, maybe it was during COVID and stuff. I was having a lot of dreams of being bitten by zombies, and I'm like, well, this is how I'm gonna die. And it's so real in the dream,
Oh
and
no,
sometimes it's
Michael.
like children, and they're on me, and they're red. They're
Yeah.
gonna start biting, and I can't. That the inky side doesn't come out, you know. But I'm getting better at. But again, you know what? All those other, I can tell you, I know how many names and titles I've been. For the most part, there's about 15, but none of that matters, man. I'm Mike now. You know what I mean? And the only thing that matters is what's in front of me right now. And uh, you know, there's a connection with Sarah and White Buffalo Calf Woman. And I can tell you the last thing we do is when we're sitting out in the hot tub talking, hey, you know I'm Inky. Yeah, I know you idiot. You know what? It doesn't even come up. It doesn't get talked about. It just we just are. And we have a good time and enjoy each other's company. And
I love your union. She's beautiful. She's always so kind on I mean, I haven't spoke with her, but she, she was kind enough to accept my friend requests or my request for her to join my women's group because I want to build a um
she's getting more out there
something
too.
that
She's
really
so
yeah.
secretive. Before she met me, she didn't even have a Facebook. That's how reclusive she is.
Yeah.
And she's
She's a
become
smart woman.
she's
That's
more,
what she is. Yeah.
yeah, she's more comfortable with it now. And I'll tell you what, she's probably the most intelligent human being I've ever met. And I can tell you in one way is she has a photographic memory like I've never seen. We can watch, like the first time we love the Lego movie. I don't know if you've seen it, but we love it. It's so spiritually encoded. There's actually a good cop, bad cop character, and he flips, like his face turns around,
Maybe I'll
and
have to check it out.
it
I
is
don't
so.
watch movie. I don't watch TV. I mean, I
That's a
watch
good one to watch. There's some
yeah,
good encoded things, and that's one of them.
yeah.
But the next time we watched it, she was reciting lines with them in real time. The second time I'm like, oh my god, I gotta watch what I say.
Well, she
She's got this shit.
appreciates, yeah, whatever. Obviously something that resonated with her, so she would
It's in
remember.
everything though. She has a
Yeah.
photographic memory like that with everything in life. Like I've never experienced
Oh,
anything
I
like
make
it.
mental notes when I want to. When I want to remember something, I do. I actually, my first love, which I believe was my first handler, and I definitely know that I went through, trauma-based mind control and so forth, but it's okay
Understood.
because, yeah. Um, he got shot in front of me, and I was standing next to the guy that shot him.
Yikes.
And the cops were blown away because the guy's face was, it was dark out. But they took me to the police station, and I was able to out of a whole run of people that they showed me, I was able to pick the guy that.
See, like I said, we all have our own gifts, and that's a
Yeah.
beautiful gift. I'm total opposite. One of the grandmothers, actually, she was behind me, and I was taking us all to get something to dinner at the Serpent Mound. And she's like, Sarah loves this, by the way. She's like, son, you're barely even here. And she did a star symbol to ground me and everything. So Sarah's like, son, you're barely even here. Like I need to be more focused. So
Yeah.
that's admirable to me, because man, I am most of the time.
Michael, you're doing amazing things. So many people look up to you. So many people admire you and appreciate you, and not in a way of worship, but saying, okay, we see you and we recognize you and we appreciate you. And I'm one of them. And there's plenty
Thank
of
you.
other ones. Yes.
Part of me, it's a weird edge for me, because obviously if I go out and perform live, I want the crowd to have a good time, and I want them to enjoy what I'm bringing to the table, and I have no problem with it. But when it comes to like guruship or anything, it's weird to me, because I do not like it when anyone puts me on some type of pedestal. But even musicians, I've met musicians that made me want to quit playing because they were just so good. And it's not a bad thing to be inspired by people. We all need someone to look up
Nothing
to,
wrong with it. That's right. Right.
and if I can be someone to look up to someone else, I'm okay with that. But I've always been like, everything to me is music, and I've always considered myself more of a Keith Richards than a Mick Jagger. You know what I'm saying? I don't
Yeah.
want to be out there in front with the
Well,
microphone.
some people may not know who your biological father is. You want to share that again for those that don't know?
Yeah,
Or
that's freaky, huh? It's Eric Clapton, and I
Mhm.
found that out through the History Channel. And Bill Burns, the host of that show, did put it in his book. He's a New York Times bestselling author. It's called UFO Hunters Season 1, the book.
Mhm.
And yeah, and it's true. I know it, and I hope I get to meet him, because man, to me, my mother and father that raised me, they're my mom and dad, and
That's
it's
right.
not
I
any,
get it.
but I sure would love to jam with him and just meet him, and that's a
Mhm.
special thing. Just like I got to meet my birth mother, and my sisters, and so yeah, I don't want anything from him, but I can tell you this is freaking. I've never shared this, but I sent an email only one time, and it was they said that he's, I guess you call it Illuminati, well, you can call it that. But he was brought up in Team Bad Cop. Look what they did to my brother, his son, and ever since, even in the past, from what I understand, they did mental mind fuckery, where they knew as a child he was afraid of trolls, gnomes. And so what they would do is that these eyes wide shut, kind of weird. I'm revealing way too much, but I was told that they would bring in hookers and put masks of trolls, and then get like people like Eric so fucked up on drugs, and then take them in and make them have sex with these trolls and whatnot. And to the point that his handler showed my biological mother. He said, you think your Eric is such an angel. Look at all, and he had cut marks all over him from a pocket knife where Eric tried to fight back. Then I found out in the early 70s he formed an anti-Illuminati group with Carlos Santana, and a lot
Wow.
of musicians like Tom Petty, when he went against the record label because they wanted to charge too much for his albums and whatnot. They formed an underground, under the scenes group trying to fight back this system. So, and I was told
I
by
mean, I've never heard of such. I mean, it is. I mean, I've listened to Bob Dylan talk about he made a deal and was wide open about it. Like I made a deal and I'm living up to what I agreed to.
hmm,
So a lot of I mean, this is just my perspective. I mean, I dated a guy that was a Mason and had no idea what Masons were until I found out. And I've got his name tattooed on me and I can't wait to get rid of it. I'm going to get that sucker covered up. But he admitted that he sold his soul. He was selling drugs and involved, police knew who, just whatever. They covered it's this. if you want to say secret society, whatever. But I
Yeah.
don't believe anybody gets to the point of that kind of stardom, if you will. If you want to say star, I don't think anybody. Listen, Michael, I'm not a person that worships people. I don't put
Understood.
people on pedestals. I mean, I give credit where it's due, but I'm not one of these people that go nuts. The only
Now,
person I would ever go nuts about is Prince. If he walked through my front door,
right
I
on.
would
What a
be
musician
super
and
excited
person,
to
man.
meet him because he is a musical genius.
Oh
And
yeah.
I love, yeah. But I went and saw Eric Clapton in concert, by the way.
Ah,
And
I've never
I
seen
Get
him
Off on
live.
57 Chevys was one of my favorite songs back then. And he was singing, and I loved him. I mean, but you don't get to that, you don't get to that place of stardom if you don't agree to some things, unfortunately.
You know what? I totally agree with what you're saying, but you can do it because, Marduk and that side works through greed and financial systems, the almighty dollar to make people go dark. Team Good Cop, Inky side, communicates through musicians and poets, and they bring sacred geometry and things that uplift the soul. But I can tell you, if you're someone of the Inky bloodline and you're brought into Hollywood, or you're brought into the inner circle of music stardom, I can guarantee you they have all the dark carrots dangled
Oh, I'm
before
sure.
them,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
I gotta say, many of them, they're just young and stupid and full of piss and vinegar, and the next thing they know, they're on Jeffrey Epstein's island, and now they're going, oh fuck, you know. Um, but I do think there's a lot of people that are super famous musicians like Prince. He they didn't stop him. They said, listen, you're not going to be able to release your. They said you're becoming your own worst enemy. You're recording an album and releasing it, and within the same year you release another release,
I
and
remember I watched that video.
yeah,
Yeah.
and he's like, well, how about fuck you? You don't have control
Well,
over
yeah,
the
at some
rate that
point
I
you
release.
just get fed up.
Well,
Yeah,
you remember they
yeah.
said, well, then you can't use the name Prince. He said, well, how about I'll be the artist formerly known as Prince, and he wrote slave on his
Yeah, yeah,
face, and
yeah.
he showed them too. I don't know if you know the story, but the next album he did, he financed the whole thing himself. It was a 4-disc set called Crystal Ball, and it was only released through Best Buy, and it sold 500,000 copies. And 500,000 copies is gold. It's really not even like platinum's 1 million. So
Yeah.
50,000 copies for a person like Prince is not really selling much, but
Okay. Hey,
um,
Prince. That's it.
oh, is that
That's
your
my.
dog? I thought it was
No, it's my dog.
Beans.
He's
But
he's funny.
he
Come here. Come here. Go ahead. I'm listening.
hey buddy. Um
This is it. Hey, hi. Hi, Michael.
Hi.
Hi,
Oh, he's
bud.
such a cutie.
Oh, he's such a good boy. He
Mhm.
is. He's a little stud. I love him. He brings so much joy to me, Michael. I live
Dogs
alone.
are
That's
great, man.
yeah.
It
He's
really upsets my soul that there's people out there that make puppy soup. That
I
horrible,
can't even. I did not
Um,
hear. I did not hear you to say that.
yeah. Um,
Ah.
that's one. Yeah, that brought out my horns. I said, no, not on
Well,
my
I mean,
watch.
some suggest. Well, I've heard. I'm gonna. I mean, I don't know if you want to watch them, but they say that the Dracos see us as you know we're willing to eat animals and whatever meat.
Yeah, so they do the
They
same.
see us no different. That
Yeah.
we're yeah.
But getting
So
back to Prince, what I can tell you is he released that crystal ball. He said it sold for $40, 4 CD set at Best Buy. He said they cost me $2.73. He said, you do the math. I made like $37 times 50,000. And it was way more even if he sold millions of albums for the record label. So he went back to the record label and they're like, whatever you want to do, Mr. Prince, you can have your name back. But then when he got his rights back, They killed him. Isn't that fucked up? And I don't know if
Well,
you know
and so
this.
Mark, and I can send it to you. Max Spears talks about that because the day that he died was Queen Elizabeth's uh, Queen Queen Elizabeth's birthday.
You know, the day
And he
before he
claims
died,
that Queen Elizabeth, the same soul that was Queen Victoria, was Queen Elizabeth, and other, I guess, another. Um, I forgot all the ones that he said, but basically, there was something with Prince being dying on the day of her birthday, and
well, the day
something about
before, the
yeah,
day before he died, he put out on Instagram a message, and it said, "Just when you thought you were safe."
yeah.
That, you know, obviously he knew what was happening. But you know, in some of these things too, you know what A.R. Borden told me, you know, when I met the Anunnaki, and I was dropped off in the middle of Team Bad Cop, you know, he said, "I hope to God you didn't sign anything in blood because that's contractual, even in higher realms. And if you did, um, there's nothing we can do to help you." And I didn't. I wouldn't. And but I could tell you, they
Well,
tried to
I've
get me
done
to.
something, I not in blood. Well, I did with my fingerprint, with my blood print, to remove myself from some things.
Hmm,
I didn't sign my name, but I signed my name and then I put a blood print next to it, meaning
why?
this is my.
I'm just curious. Why? How did
Well,
blood ever come into it?
it was to remove myself um from being baptized and christened or whatever.
Why was blood involved?
I was told that that's the way you have to do it in order for it to. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't be sharing this on me on this and share it with you privately. And
That's fine.
I'll wait.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
just curious because
no, I'll share it with you privately because I would love for your. Um, I mean, I don't feel like there's any. I haven't received any repercussions from that. Meaning, I don't think that anything bad is. I don't believe I contracted in a way that would be harmful to
then you
myself.
haven't. You know, thoughts create reality, right? You
Yeah.
know,
No, I
then
don't
you
think
haven't.
I have, and I
But
think I think what I did was not just for me; it was for my bloodline. I'll say that
mm,
to remove from all these dark contracts that we aren't even aware that we are a part of because it's done in past lives that we don't even remember. So I don't know, Michael. I would love to discuss that with you off.
yeah, we could do it off
Yeah,
camera.
because I would like to show you and see what your thoughts are about it. I mean, it was I listen.
I can just tell you,
My thing is, there's nothing to hide, right? For me,
yeah,
I have nothing to hide. Anything that I've ever done in this life, I've never touched a child and I've never robbed a bank. Everything else, I feel like I chose all the experiences I had in order for me to know what it felt like to be that person. And I also know everything that I judged, I became.
yeah,
Everything I judged, I became.
yes, indeed.
Or I do my best to stay neutral and not to go into a place of judgment, even with the Illuminati and all the crap that we hear. Uh, you know, I
Well,
just
I'll tell you,
I
you
don't
know,
like it. And if something was happening in my face, would I take do something? Oh, absolutely, I would.
yeah,
I'm not some being sitting in an ohm state all day long and not having. I am a human. I am in this human vessel, in this body avatar, to have experiences and to be able to
yeah. You know what though? What we just talked about in my own case, man, it really made me think of, am I what I'm responding to? Like my friend, I didn't know he's fake passing out. Of
yeah,
course, to me, the right thing is to do and go and help your friend. But
yeah,
man, it was total illusion. I was being set up to fail. And
yeah.
I don't know. I wouldn't sit there and think about this shit if someone needed my help. I think I would still help.
Well,
But
that's what I'm saying.
it
And it's
almost,
foolish to ever think that we wouldn't, because if you have a heart, you're going to want to extend yourself and help.
They said it's all about learning how to fight with the art of not fighting.
I know that's what it was that you said about the Pleiadians. And I would say I appreciate that statement, although knowing myself, I don't, I believe, I mean, we are very loving, high vibrational beings, the Pleiadian souls and Octurians, all souls. I mean, everybody, although I am a believer that there are some that have very little experience in their universal wisdom, so to speak, and then some that have accumulated more knowledge and wisdom through lifetimes, right? So, um,
You
but
know, there's always a way that you can respond. I call it rain in and out now because that's what happened at the Sundance. Instead of what I found is, first of all, it's impossible to go to each one of those people and say, this blood sacrifice stuff you're doing is not necessary. It will fall on deaf ears. That's how from children, from childbirth, they're raised into this culture. But what you can do is, I found out Yahweh told me you prayed for rain. On the second day, I seen my friends and they're suffering. It was 100 degrees out. And so I out loud prayed for rain. He said, what you don't understand is there's mind control, and they're mind controlled to never pray for rain. So if the person that prays for rain, not only did you not succumb to the Illuminati mind control programming, but you showed enough love and compassion for your fellow brother and sister to pray for rain to alleviate their suffering, that
that's
then
right.
the light side goes, come on through. There's no more testing necessary. So
Oh, I love that.
so praying for rain, and I'll tell you
I
what
love that.
happened is, it was one of the most beautiful experiences of my life, because
Mhm.
me and Galzu were on the outside of the Sundance grounds, and I had already prayed out loud for rain. Said, please, oh, it's gonna turn me up. But we're outside and way off. This isn't Iowa. I think all I know is miles of flat farmland. Way off in the distance, it looked like the size of a quarter was the most electrical lightning storm I've ever seen in my life. It looked like something from a Hollywood movie. And we're sitting there looking at it going, man, now mind you, it's clear sky, nothing but stars, and the whole scene was filled with fireflies. So everywhere you look for miles, there's just oceans of fireflies. And then behind you was the woods, and into the depth of the woods was fireflies. But above you was all the star canopy. And it was so beautiful. But over here, it's like the most electric plasma ball from Spencer Gifts looking thing you've ever seen in your life. And I told Galzu, I said, if that thing doesn't change direction, it looks like it's coming this way. So but at the speed it was going, it's like it's going to take hours to get here and probably dissipate or whatever. So we just went to bed, and sure enough, about 5 o'clock in the morning, it pulled up right over the Sundance ground, and it unleashed the most heavenly rain. And all I can tell you is the first 2 days, I found out there's a lot of Illuminati funk, blood sacrifice ceremonies going on. That energy held thick in the air, and it was
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
revolting to me, even the
yeah.
energy of the place. And it was about 100 degrees, like I said, every day. And I was trying to find shade under a tree just to try to cool down. And here are my friends out there. They can't stop moving. They can't stop dancing. They're staring at the sun, and no food or no drink for 4 days. And so
I would. I can't even imagine. I
when
mean,
that
that's
rain
just.
came, it was so cleansing. And the next day, instead of it feeling 100 degrees, it felt like 80 degrees. And that moisture hung in the air. And it was like you're on a nice, beautiful Hawaii tropical island. But man, it cleansed all that funk out of the air. All that
My
negative.
yeah, I can imagine. I can. I mean, even here in Florida, if I so I live in Mandarin, in Jacksonville. If I drive to Orange Park, which is 15-20 minutes from here, if I go over that bridge, it's like I'm driving into a whole nother. I could feel the dense heaviness energy every time I go to Orange Park. Same thing when I lived in Maryland, when I would go from like Frederick, Maryland to Hagerstown or downtown Silver Spring. like energetically, it's like whoosh, like I could feel the energy shift that happens when you go in or when I go into certain areas. It's
Yeah.
heavy and it doesn't feel good. And I agree.
Yeah.
Well,
Ancestral
I was
memory.
here in my house. So when I first moved here, I don't know how long it was, probably about a year into living here, or maybe a half a year, not long, because I've been here since 2018. And one day I was just laying on the couch watching one, YouTube, I don't know what. And I had never met my neighbor, Michael, because she was sick. And there was a lady that would come in and bring her mail and take her trash out and help her or whatever. Long story short, something made me lift myself up off the couch and I'm looking around. It's like I felt something, like something just entered my house. And it was enough for me to not want to lay back down and not get up and see what was going on. Damn if I didn't go to my front door. When I went to open the door, the whole doorknob fell off. You're talking about you have to get a screwdriver and unscrew a doorknob that's on that door. I mean, it's securely tight on my door. What it was, she had died and
Mm.
tried to come into my house, and I had to clear my house and commanded that she leave my space. And I sent her to the light, and I pray for your crossing, and I helped her. Well, sure enough, 2 days later, I see people going in and out. Now, this is before it was actually confirmed to me that she died, even though I knew she did. The lady came out, she was asking me questions, and she said, well, my friend died. And I said, well, I can tell you right now what time it was, because it was
Mm.
9:20 something, whatever, when I looked at my clock and got up, went to go outside. So anyways, I don't know why I just told you that. I thought that was fascinating. I mean, I'm
Energy
super
and
sensitive to
energies
stuff
of
is what yeah, I feel when things aren't right or people, like I said, I see people's eyes will shift in front of me. They get uncomfortable in my
interesting. That sparked something in me when you said that, because what I realized was, once I thought I'd done my own spiritual homework and weeded out my own belief system of the fear and doubt, it seemed like it jumped a rung and it hit all my loved ones around me. And I thought it was even worse. It's like, you know what? I would rather go through my own trial and tribulations than to see my loved ones and my friends going through it. And it's almost like, this can't be, it can't jump from me to everyone around me. And now I got to experience this. And it was an ambassador, not from here. And he said, Michael, what you don't understand is your energy now is going out for like in size of 3 houses that way and 3 houses this way. And it's just sympathetic resonance. It's science. Meaning, if I have a guitar in my living room and I hit the A string and I have another guitar that's tuned like exactly the same, that A string on the other guitar that's never been plucked will begin to vibrate. So he said, what's happening is,
fascinating.
he said, when
Wow.
you enter a room, you might not even realize it, but those around you, frequency, just science, wants lower frequencies will try to match a higher frequency. The only way to raise your frequency is to do your own shadow work and clear some of that shit out. So
I
what
do it.
happens is, this is him talking to me. If you don't learn how to manage your energy field, unless you're cool with people going insane around you, when they come around you, they're going to try to match your energy. And the only way that they can do that is to start processing shadow. To them, it's going to be like, oh God, I got shit to do. I got, all they know is when they're around you, they start to feel like shit, because all of their baggage is brought forth trying
Well,
to
I
be
think
healed.
that's exactly what it is. And sometimes I'm not I don't, sometimes because I'll walk into a room and I'm just I mean, I'm a naturally happy, very kind and bubbly kind of person, right? I'm a Leo. I'm a Queen of Wands. I'm a fire. I like to burn through and come in and say hello to everybody and
Right
share
on.
my love.
You can
And
still do it. I'll tell you what I learned from him, and I've implemented this in my own life, and it seems to be very beneficial. Is, he said, instead of letting your energy just run amok, to slap it back to your body like a millimeter, a light suit. And no longer is your energy going out in 3 houses that way and 3 houses that way.
I need to learn
Now,
how to do that better. I mean, I shield my,
all you
yeah.
do is it's a mental visualization. Get into a meditative state and just visually see it from going out in 3 houses to bam. Now I just did it mentally. It's that simple. And visualize, because visualization and imagination.
I don't do enough of it. I'll be the first one to admit it. But now that
Yeah.
you're saying that to me, I'm going to take
Try
heed.
it. Helped me. I'm just trying to,
Well, I mean,
I
I,
think that's
I
all we can
definitely am
do.
able to, I put it, I will shield my body, and then I shield my home, and then I will shield my area and send loving high vibrational energy out. I also walk outside and, you know, somebody I used to be friendly with that I don't talk to anymore used to, would suggest to people to go outside and say AI, Facebook, Ida Farhat, confirm high vibrational connections, loving thoughts and intentions only. Thank you.
Right on.
Speaking to this, right?
You know,
Yeah.
one thing I learned too in the same way, because it reminds me of that, but especially like when I was living in Cleveland, sometimes you go into a bar and there was everyone was depressed. The economy's bad there, and you can feel it when you walk in,
Yeah.
that
And I don't do well around
to,
people like that.
I learned, I call it the golden room. And in my mind, I create a door. And when I open it up, it's filled with golden light. And when I walk in, I slam the door behind me. Nothing that's not of my highest benefit cannot enter that room. And I enter that room of golden light, and that's my sanctuary. And it's another mental visualization that I do when I feel funky energy, because it's out there,
I'm going to start doing that. So you say that again, if you don't mind to repeat that.
It's the golden room in your mind's eye. Create some steps going up to a door, and even imagine it, the door is glowing. It's just golden light. And then when you open the door, the whole room inside is filled with nothing but golden light. And as you pass through, nothing of lower frequency can get through. Nothing that's not for your highest benefit can enter. And when you go in, slam the door behind you. Now you're free of all of it.
I'm going to start doing that. Laura Eisenhower told me that I was made of gold. She said, "You're pure light." She said, it's gold. You're made of golden liquid light." And I was like, "Oh, thank you. I didn't know that." I mean,
Tell Laura I said hi. If
I
we've done many
I
Knowledge
haven't,
conferences.
I mean, yeah, I haven't spoke with her. I mean, I had a couple readings with her, and I shared some stuff. Well, the stuff that I've shared with you now. Um, Before I wasn't so open to do that. Of course, I was told that if I ever went public, I would be severely attacked. And
was
I
told the
know
same
why.
thing.
Huh?
Yeah, I've been told the same thing,
Yeah.
especially when I was with the NSA people. They said, listen, we know you're inky, but if you become too vocal too soon, you're going to put a target on
Yeah.
your back, because a
Yeah.
lot of people are going to, especially fundamentalist religion, want to, again,
Or when
I
you
don't
have
claim these
people, and I
names,
won't
but
name names, that are out here saying Enki is all
yeah,
AI and,
yeah,
people,
yeah.
whatever. Like, listen, we're friends, Michael, and I absolutely hold you and Sarah up in high esteem, high regards, and I respect you and love your union and so forth. So I don't want you to, or I don't want the people that are listening to this. I love you. And I can say that as a friend, I care deeply for you, and I would want nothing but the highest and
We
best
love
good.
you too.
Yes. So don't
Yeah,
misunderstand me. I don't want people, but when
no, it's
I
all
hear,
good. There does seem to be some movement that's
well,
anti.
that's right. And I take it, and maybe I shouldn't take it I kind of get like,
I'm like, yeah, I think I'm
I
pretty
take it a
nice.
little personal. Like, who the F are you to be saying that to
Yeah,
this person? I'm thinking. And it just feels like there is, because,
I
well,
was just
I feel
approached
like
by
it's
someone
still
like
this
this, and
effort
they
to keep.
actually they said, after they berated me, and then I went, because I don't know this person, and I went to their wall, and they had posted Morningstar, and they said, "This is what AI sounds like," and stuff. I'm going, what the fuck? And then she contacts me and is like, I am Shiva, and you've angered me, and tell Anu that he better back off or die. And shit, I'm like, you know what? I don't need
Yeah,
to entertain your energy. And I
yeah.
don't block many people, but I blocked her,
Oh, I don't
and
blame you.
but
Yeah.
then I think too, though, then there's these people out there like, what, why? Like I said, man, I think I'm a pretty nice person. I think in the scheme of things, if you could look at my Akash, they'd see I've went to bat for humanity more so
Mhm.
than anyone even knows, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
And but in my mind, I'm like, is there really someone out there that in their own mind met someone that might have been masquerading as me? Because like I
yeah.
said, Team Bad Cop they'll appear as what if they can appear as a wolf or a triangle, they can appear as anything they need to accomplish what they're trying to accomplish. And even me, right? They can appear as anything, I would think. They were able to become faceless in front of me. That's how I knew,
Well, I wasn't able to see this person's face, but I was able to see his body avatar before he sat. And he has a particular ring, and in that ring, he holds the codes to the Matrix. And I know exactly who he is, and nobody would ever be able to tell me otherwise because I know what I know, and
I
it's
know.
okay. And it's not my place. I mean, I believe at some point. Well, I've heard him even say, "Everybody's here." He's made comments about certain characters were mentioned, and he said everybody's on the planet.
Mhm.
Everybody, we all know we're all here.
Yeah.
We said, right?
This is what we've
My
been
question
doing
is,
this
when is
for.
it going to come to the day when we say, okay, enough is enough? And how can we work together for the betterment? How can we show, be a example to humanity
It's
what love
coming.
looks
There's a reckoning coming, but you know what? People need to take responsibility. And one of the biggest things on a worldwide level is the America has to face the genocide crimes against humanity that they've perpetrated against Native American Indians and Afro Americans, and so slavery and genocide is what this
like.
country has become and
Well, I
founded.
agree.
That
Okay.
wasn't the meaning of it or why it was started. It was actually a previous incarnation of mine. I was known as Chief Corn Planter, and the first treaty on this planet was between George Washington and Chief Corn Planter, and it's called the Corn Planter Tract. And they were such great friends, and he learned everything that became America and the Constitution from Chief Corn Planter because this "we the people" and this democracy. This isn't the way things were done in England. It's the way things were done by the Iroquois, who had united their tribes. So they wanted to unite these states. They learned everything. And because of this, George Washington created the Corn Planter Tract. And the Corn Planter Tract said that for as long ever as grass shall grow and the sun shall shine, the land in Pennsylvania and Salamanca, where Niagara Falls is, forevermore, the land of the Iroquois. And it's not part of the United States, and they're not to be stampled upon. I don't even know the words, but they're to be respected as a sovereign nation. And
Yeah.
in the 1960s, and I always felt bad. It was Kennedy who actually signed for the 600 Seneca in Pennsylvania to be removed at gunpoint so they could create the Kinzig Dam so they could have hydroelectric power to power Pittsburgh because
Wow.
it was being flooded. And so now, mind you, all these, I don't want to call them fake patriots, but every time I turn on the news, I see someone spouting the Constitution. Look into the Constitution, the supreme law of the land that supersedes every state and every judge in every state is the treaty. So,
I have at my from my mother's side, from my grandmother, John, he was a Johnson. He was a judge. Uh and I don't know if I shared this with you before, Michael, and it's kind of a little uh, TON. So you've heard of Jay Parker. Are you aware of Jay
no.
Parker?
Mm-mm.
Jay Parker, he grew up in an Illuminati bloodline family, and he shared a lot of what he experienced growing up and so forth. That's where I got this from. He made this for me. I don't know if you can
Can
see
you
that.
hold it up closer, maybe, or you'd have to take it off? Huh?
Oh, sorry. Here I can. But anyways, and he made that pyramid over there.
Oh yeah.
Um, he said that TON is a Illuminati code to let their people know, or secret society code to let their people know that they can find their people in these places. So like Washington, Trenton, Hilton, Silverton, all these different, and Silverton is the condominium I lived in when all that crap went down and I
Gotcha.
was targeted. Um, anyways, so my point, a lot of these judges are obviously, we know, are bloodline, and they're going to they're in black robes for a reason, and they aren't our authority in any way. And yeah, I could
You
get
know what I
deep on
find
that.
interesting about that, and these people who are claiming, you know, interestingly enough, you know, people are throw the Nephilim and the Anunnaki under the proverbial bus of behind the world's secret societies and behind the world's problems, where Inky's bloodline comes in through the Native American Indians. That's something that's not being told. It's not
But were the
Skull
Indians
and
here
Bones.
before the Palestinians, Michael?
They intermingled, yes. The bloodline came and intermingled into the Native American Indian tribes that were already here, and they brought culture. And they actually, from King Solomon, I don't know if you know this, but the Iroquois had very advanced copper making skills. They had copper helmets and armor, spears, everything.
So you're saying Indians were here before Palestinians?
Yes, yes, yes.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, because the Native
Well,
American
our
Indians will
history, I
tell
mean, the
you,
Bible is a book of history. It doesn't
oh
mention
yeah,
in there about, I mean, Palestine is
you
Philistine.
know what? It gets really freaking, because I'm not Christian in any
I
way,
don't
but
know that I would, I mean, I would have to find out more about that because
yeah, because this is 10,500 years ago, and the Native American Indians, they'll tell you we didn't build these mound sites, we inherited them, and they didn't have the knowledge that the incoming, bloodline, the Nephilim, they were of very tall stature. And they intermingled and they became like the chiefs of the Seneca. And they're always really tall individuals too. Back then, it'd be 7, 8 foot tall chiefs. And even the bones that they found at Serpent Mound, they were 9 foot tall, but below the knee to the foot had been removed, and it was still 9 foot. So if you added that bottom in, it was probably 12 or 13 foot individual.
yeah.
And they told me that's my bloodline though, and I just got wider and shorter. They said we couldn't do what we
Well, I mean, we all
do.
have, I think.
Yeah.
Everybody has been
Um,
mutated, so to speak.
so they made us fit better in, and our stature was shortened, you know. And but yeah, so the bloodline entered into the North American continent, becoming known as the Mound Builders, and then met the Native American Indians and intertwined into those tribes. And that's why, like I said, only 3% of Native American Indians that we know of is haplogroup X2A. Because haplogroup X2A, you might as well put equals the fleur-de-lis. That's the symbol for the bloodline. It came from the hills of Galilee, and it is the Nephilim. But so what does that have to do with Skull and Bones and Illuminati? This is a group of people who were persecuted and genocided by that evil machinery worse than anybody on this planet. And I think that's going to be a real reckoning to come, because ask any fundamentalist Christian, what is your role according to your book? How are you supposed to be behaving towards the lost tribe of Israel? Oh, we're supposed to be protecting them. We're supposed to make sure nothing bad happens to them.
well,
Well,
I
guess
think,
what? You
yeah.
genocided us.
Yeah. Um,
So my whole point with that is what does that show that we had anything to do with the Illuminati, Skull and Bones? That, you know what we had to do with it? Nothing. And they're not the true bloodlines. They might, they might think they're special and go out and do stupid shit and harm others. They don't got nothing. They don't have
okay, and
any
this is where the
information.
reptilian and the Dracos come in, Michael. This is where the reptilian and the
I,
Drake. I'm
I,
just saying.
I know that's, I don't, that's not my, like I said, I think that side will take on whatever gift wrapping they need to take on. It could be Draco, it could be, before it was archons. Everyone was talking about archons. Then you look into archons and it's like, oh, there's benevolent archons. What now?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not suggesting, from my understanding, I mean, there's several groups of different reptilians, but I can tell you, I know when I come across, I have friends that are reptilian. They shift them, I see their eyes shift in front of me, and I tell them, do you mind if I tell you? I just want to let you know that you just shifted in front of me. I tell them,
hmm.
there's nothing to
I've,
hide.
I've
But
never met one.
more than that, it's like I don't like, I don't like the idea that there's this, like reptilians should feel bad about who they are or whatever. Not feel bad, like, well, there's this big, you know,
There's light and
whatever you
dark in
want to call
everything,
it
from what
against
I understand.
reptilians. And it's like, why should they feel bad for what they are? They don't, most of them don't even know what the hell they are, first off. Most
Well, is
that
there,
have high
from what I
reptilian
understand, all of it,
DNA,
even grays, reptilians, there's benevolent, very enlightened
I believe that.
individuals.
And
So
that's why I don't
that
want to
throws
play the
everything out the
game
window.
of
Yeah,
the,
there's no
I'd rather
polarity.
be
Just use your
neutral.
discernment, and if
Yeah.
someone vibrates wrong in front of you, move on.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, Michael, I agree. So that's right. Because I was one, I mean, because of what I went through and like you said, some of the things that I was watching, and I'm pretty good at making my own decisions. I don't normally, it's like if somebody comes to me and says, oh, watch out for so and so, I need to know for myself whether this is a true something that I need to be concerned about. You can't just, meaning a person can't just come to me and say, talk, say something about somebody, and I just take it as truth.
See,
I don't do that. I make my own decisions.
all this comes back to that whole the art of fighting without fighting, because
Yes.
if you rail against it, like what I found was being brought into the total epitome of blood sacrifice ceremony, Illuminati, that me trying to convince each person that what they're doing is not necessary fell on deaf ears. But the next year they're going to do it again. And I went to the big woman upstairs and I said, listen, I'm okay with grown adults doing stupid shit to themselves. I don't really give a shit, but keep the children out of it. They are innocent. And I
That's
was
right.
told then, okay, so for the first time in 27,000 years, Chief Yahweh told me there was no flesh blood sacrifice. At it, they said it just never happened. People were like, oh, okay, it just didn't happen. No children were brought in and no flesh removed from the arm. So I felt good about that anyhow, that at least I did that much, but the next year it started happening. I knew it was going to happen again. And again, I went to the big woman upstairs. I said, I don't know what to do. I found me trying to tell people that what they're doing is not necessary and actually harmful. It's fallen on deaf ears. And she said, you know exactly what to do. I said, I do. She said, you rain it out. I thought, oh my God, I didn't even think about it. So I rained it out from right here in Florida. I mentally, and they recognized me, the elders. They said, my name is not Ea. Ea means grandfather. Inky means Lord of the Earth or ambassador of the earth. My name's Michael, Saint Michael. They said my name has always been Michael, or they say Lucifer. They say I'm talking about the Native American Indians. They look at Lucifer and Michael as two different sides of the same coin. That if in a lifetime I've went dark and I've been tricked into going dark, I've taken on my Lucifer side. And I don't even know if I buy that, because the Vatican was really good in turning bad guys into good guys into bad guys. Like they took Mary Magdalene, and now the Pope said, you know what? We realize that she's the apostle of apostles and understand Jesus's teachings more so than anyone. So we're going to make this saint day to her. And I'm like, wait a minute. What about that 2,000 years of saying she's a prostitute and a whore? You know what I mean? So I'm not so sure the
I
name
could share some
Lucifer.
things about that, but I'm not going to go into that. So
Well, the whole thing with
I believe
Lucifer.
that okay, well, I can tell you just from this lifetime, I've had a lot of lovers, a lot. And I believe that I was used to activate a lot of men. And I also know that my body was being used as a portal, as a Stargate. That was told to me. Um, so I'll just say that. And for whatever other, I can't speak for the other 8 women that hold the Magdalene DNA, their memory or what they've experienced. But you know, I mean, I appreciate the Catholic Church, but I don't take a whole lot of what they. I don't.
No,
Yeah.
it's been infiltrated like everything else. But I'll tell you what happened is when I was given the name Rainbow Warrior Eagle, they gave me back St. Michael's sword. Now, mind you, this is not my baggage. This is I never even I started to think something because when I came in and Chief Yahweh, Chief Golden Light Eagle, he go, oh, Archangel Michael is here. And I'm looking around going, he is, like what? And so then after the Sundance and after I went through the vetting of the 2 sides and luckily passed. But what I was going to say is, I was being tricked in and I was biting the carrot, man. I was going in. It was a grandmother that saved the day and almost tackled me and said, here, drink for him, and handed me a glass of water. She's just running interference because by the time I got done, he was back up on his feet. Otherwise, I was entering. I would have been hanging from the cross, so to speak. And
But you're
yeah,
not, and
but
that's
I'm
what
not.
matters, right?
But
I don't believe that any of us can be taken out. You nobody. I
but
mean,
wouldn't it have been
yeah,
like again, they can't do anything unless you give it permission. And I was
yeah.
giving them permission by responding to illusion. But the point of all this is when I use
Michael, you're
because
not by yourself. I did. I think you. We've all done it.
the weird thing is though of choosing another path of they gave me back what they said was Archangel Michael's sword. They said this is a 3D representation of it, but you got it back in the astral and it's much larger. This is a crystal dagger. It's about this long. And they said it was made in the same fashion as the Mitchell Hedges crystal skull, which they said was sound. They've had it through generations of waiting for me to resurface, and they gave it back to me. And so I don't use it. It's here in the house, As much as I think this is crazy shit, it's there. So when she told me, you know what to do, rain it out. Well, I visualized those sun dancers. This is 2 years after the one I was at. And I used the sword because I know it severs attachment, And in my mind's eye, I pictured those sun dancers with water running under their feet. It's hard to do what you need to do if you're sloshing around in mud and
Mhm.
and there's water pouring on you and you're
Yeah,
not supposed to
right.
drink. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I I I did. And I went into meditation and I visualized water and then I let it go. And then all of a sudden I started getting phone calls and they're like, oh my God, did you hear what's going on there? Well, there's flash flood warnings all over the news. And really it got flash flooded. And they said there was so much rain, you wouldn't even believe it. Every year they've tried to do it, I've rained it out. Because think of the 2 different ways of this one way that I'm usually like, I got to go out with a flag and try to convince every single person, no, this isn't right. This isn't, but you can just rain it out and not give them a chance to even do the bullshit that they've been doing. So I think it's a great metaphor for life of whatever's going on, find a way to rain it out. Don't try to go and convince everyone that there's wrong. Just,
Well, I did that. I did that, and
I
it's
think we all
interesting that
have,
you're speaking to this because when I first, well, I was telling the bus driver and the freaking cab driver and the anybody that I could scream it out to because I was so blown away. And I put my family. I have some amends to make, and I know that in my heart of hearts, and I trust that I will be given that opportunity when in due time, because I was indignant and very aggressive and forceful. I was trying to figure out my own what I was experiencing, and I'm not making excuses, and getting my family, like I was looking for support from somebody to help me to understand what the hell I was experiencing and
yeah.
why. Right. And there was
That's,
nobody because it's
no,
not
you're
meant
one
to
of the
be.
first,
We're
man.
required to go through our own dark night of the soul so that we learn our own lessons. I get that now. I didn't understand it then.
Yeah, it's hard, you know. Matter of fact, A.R. Borden said, you know, that's an NSA guy. He said that the hardest thing for a human to experience is knowing a reality and not having it reflected by your friends and peers and family. And they said actually the first waivers, you know, the first batch of this mass consciousness that starts to awaken, you don't have the support of your friends and family or anything. So those roles aren't given out arbitrarily. They're like spiritual warriors that have lived many lives and learned how to shed that and, you know, accelerate.
I
And
appreciate that because I didn't. I mean, that
well, when you're
answers
going
some
through
of
it,
my
it doesn't help.
questions. I
You know, I
mean,
went through the same thing, you know, because we're
yeah,
social people and we want to be liked. And, you know, and yeah, it's hard to be, but if you think about it, if you're one on the first wave of the you know, well, there's no one you can go to because you're the way shower, not them. You're the
no.
one that they will be coming to and saying, hey, this
And
is
that's what my biggest goal, or something that I hold very close to my heart, is to be in a position at that time when they do come to me that I have done enough shadow work and integration and healing so that I can truly be a strength for others, to help them through.
spirits told me to tell you something because one beings, come here. It's okay. Uh, you know what time we got? I think she might need to go outside.
Yeah, I know
Have
Prince
we
has gone to the door.
hmm,
It's 8:30, but we don't have to go the whole 3 hours if you don't
oh
want to.
beans. We
Yeah,
might do the how about we do the prop circle? And
yeah, go
it's
ahead,
okay.
go for it. But you just said
Yeah.
Spirit was telling you to tell me something. I'd like to know what
Yeah,
that
what
is.
was it? Oh, Golden Light Eagle said, you know, we feel it. Hey, that's okay. Come here. I think we'll remember that about I don't think I'm gonna be able to tell you now.
It's okay. It's
Right
okay.
on. Um, but it's been
Yeah.
a great conversation.
Yes.
And
Uh,
usually
yeah.
Sarah's here. Sarah went to spend a couple of days with her girlfriend, so I'm holding down the fort alone.
No, you're fine, Michael. No worries. We'll
It's
just
been
go
a
ahead and end
pleasure
it.
again.
And
I really enjoy our conversations.
I
And
love
these are
talking to you. Yeah,
conversations that I don't really get to have much of them.
very good.
God bless.
So I appreciate you, and I won't bug you anymore this month. Maybe in a month or two, some things might
January,
arise,
I
or
got my
if you,
final surgery, so maybe February I'll
yeah.
be free better.
And I would love to have you back, and we'll see how you're doing then. Thank you,
Perfect.
Michael. Yep. You have
Bye
a
bye.
blessed evening. Bye
Bye,
bye.
Katie. Bye bye.